हे शुरू जी।
नमस्ते। कैसे?
बस अच्छे बढ़िया। Namaskar, hello and welcome to this concluding day of World Education Forum 2025. Today is the seminal occasion of International Education Day as well. And for the last 4 days, we have been deliberating upon very intense themes concerning education, and somewhere the motivation behind convening the World Education Forum on the similar dates as that of the World Economic Forum, which is also concluding today at Davos in Switzerland. And at Rethink India, and especially in the Indic traditions, we have been quite very conversant of the fact that education, and especially the integral education, remains the encumbrance for a resilient economic development. And this year being the 75th year of the modern Indian Republic, this carries all the more importance and pertinence. We started off the journey with a set of very five luminaries illuminating us from the foundations, the philosophical foundations of education, Shiksha, moving forward on what is Vidya in the Bharatiya tradition. We also moved on as to what is Kala, Kaushal, and finally Anubhuti. And the journey went on with the learning types, with the human mentored and the parental learning, which has an emotional connect with the personalized, purpose driven coaching. And more importantly, in the era of today, the technological era of today, the AI proctored and prompted self learning. And we also had a very elaborate deliberation on how the concerns of employability, they can be boosted, the interdisciplinary research, innovation from the local context. That is so very pertinent that India is the mother of innovations. For that matter, we are a 140 crore population, a continental antiquity. So how we can take advantage of our own challenges and convert them into solutions. And as our speaker for the day, who says creating problem solvers, so that is also quite very pertinent out there. And then ethical entrepreneurship as a way of life. That was on day three. And yesterday, we deliberated upon the fascinations of education, especially the edu continuum from the pre-primary to the postdoctoral level, how the various levels of education will have a forward and a backward linkages, and especially the K-12 school education and the higher education per se, how we can have a hand holding between the two. And this also emanates from Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee's octate of education, that universities have to somewhere backward linkage with the school education to really create a kind of a continuum. Yesterday being also the Parakram Divas, the birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and he was the one who internationalized the entire question of India's political independence at that point in time. So we also had a theme of edu internationalization and edu intranationalization, and this debate has become all the more very, very interesting in the recent times, when statistics say that the inward remittances by the NRI community is somewhere squared by our outward expenditure for higher education, for that matter, and especially in the context when India is replete with the 1008 plus quite decently higher education campuses, and with digital technologies in place, we can always have the best of the brains in the classrooms right here on the Indian campuses, so that after petroleum and gold, higher education remains our highest chunk of foreign forex expenditure. So there was a talk about that. And then the showstopper yesterday was Dr. Surendra Pathak ji, who, in a very, very intertwined fashion, talked about the edu integration and the edu interdisciplinarity. पंचतत्व की बात तो हम करते हैं, but then how philosophy and language, natural sciences, social sciences and technology, how these five of them have to be integrated to create a conflict free kind of an integration, resolving the global problems for that matter. It was quite a intense session by Dr. Suren Pathak. And today we would be joined by five, yet another eminent set of I would say speakers, and in our Rethink India parlance, kind of emerging rishis in their own right. And as we had Subhash Chandra Bose returning back to the service of the motherland, and today a host of our speakers, they all returned back to contribute their मतलब अपने को भारत की सेवा में खपा देने के उद्देश्य से दे ऑल रिटर्न बैक, एंड दे आर वर्किंग फिनोमिनली वेल इन देयर ओन individual spaces. And to start with, and today the themes whatever we are deliberating upon is the 5 V's, and starting with from foundations to frontiers, ki vision, values, virtues, vitality, and finally the VUCA handling capacity. So these will be the 5 themes over there. And our first speaker for this concluding day of the World Education Forum is Professor Dr. Shobhit Mathur, who leads a very aspirational, a very dynamic university, which is named as the Rishiwood University, located just north of Delhi in Sonipat, and having the IIT Bombay and University of Washington pedigree. Shobhiji would be giving his talk on how to nurture a personalized vision for life, which somewhere happens to be the sum and substance of higher education. Before being the Kulpati of Rishihood University, Shobhiji led a movement under the aegis of Vision India Foundation. So he's somewhat so very apt in really, because a person who was some of the top rankers of his times at IIT Bombay, who went to acquire higher education, served at some of the multinational tech corporations, but his inner calling, like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, it brought him back and to serve the grassroots और पूरा जीवन खपा देने का एक संकल्प के साथ. So how this personalized vision, drawing from his own very personal examples, if he can really inspire the youth of the country in that fashion, and he has been doing it so very immaculately all across. So without any further ado, I will invite Shobhit ji to deliver his World Education Forum talk this evening. Shobhit ji.
Okay, thank you, Raghav ji, for that elaborate introduction. And I mean, I don't think I deserve to be compared to Subhash Chandra Bose for coming back and serving the country. It's still early days. But definitely, yes, that has been an important part of my life journey. I mean, it's a vast topic, vision for life, and I think I have about 20 minutes or less than that. So what I would rather talk about is a bit of my journey, yes, but why I have chosen to be in the higher education space. So I have been fortunate to have very good education. You mentioned that IIT Bombay, University of Washington. I came back, started something called Youth for Seva. I was a full-time social worker for about 5 years. And then I chose to, I mean, do my MBA from the Indian School of Business, again, a very good business school. and then started Vision India Foundation, which is in public policy domain. So my journey, starting from just a pure passion to give back to the country, to how do I contribute to nation building, if you want to call it that, in the long run. So I think the conclusion I came to by evaluating many different things is we need to build institutions, higher education institutions, something that is grounded in our civilizational ethos, right? So it's not that there is a shortage of universities in India. There are about 1,200 universities, 40,000 plus colleges, about 4.5 crore students are studying their graduate education across all these 40,000 colleges and 1,200 universities. So why do we need one more? I think, especially in the Indian context, those few years that they step out of home and before they enter professional life or public life, if you want to call that, those 4 years are very, very critical. They genuinely shape the mindset. They give you direction for life. So I'm in Haryana, so from the Bhagavad Gita context, you would say Swabhav and Swadharma, right? So you will have to recognize your own Swabhava, right? Who you are, what is your nature, and what would you want to do. So I think these 4 years is a tremendous opportunity, especially given our demography. If we could even shape a few thousand people every year, right, with this right mindset, then that would be the biggest contribution that I could make to the country. And because it's an institution, it would last beyond me. It would last for a very long time. So this is the conclusion that I came to, that we'll have to build a university grounded in our values that is working not just for the first job, but for life, something that you have mentioned in the title today, right? So how do we create an education that is enriching, elevating, right? Rishihood comes from Swami Vivekananda's lectures, which is the state of being a rishi. The purpose of education is to reach rishihood. So how do you become like a rishi? And rishi is not some ascetic in the mountains. Rishi is actively involved in society, is actively involved in addressing issues of the society, right? So that is always the Rishi that we had. Rishis were not disconnected from society, right? So this is what we want to create. Swamiji had a lot of thoughts on education. Many people will talk about it as slogans. Very few people can implement it. There are various constraints for that. So this bold idea of setting up a university sounds ambitious, but I think it is the need of the hour. And what I can say, starting with the positives, is when we threw this idea to the world, we got a tremendous support. Because I think somewhere in everybody's mind, anybody who understands India deeply enough will finally come to education as the way to change the nation. And higher education definitely comes up there. Uh, this idea of building a university comes from there. So when we said this idea, a lot of people came forward to support us. We are one of the few universities. There is a collective philanthropy. So well-meaning individuals who want to give back to society, who want to build institutions, not looking for personal glory or trying to extract out of the institution. They are the people who came forward and supported us. So this is Rishihood University in a brief way that what we are trying to do. We are in Sonipat. We are primarily undergraduate education and we are a residential university. Now, this is very important. The choice that we have made residential is because I'm sure you'll appreciate this, that it is a way to reimagine the Gurukul system in the current context, right? So we were always residential, faculty, students stayed together. There was a campus. Very few universities, other than the centrally sponsored universities, can claim that they are residential, right? Because the costs are very high. So we are happy that we made that bold choice and it is going well. Secondly, we are undergraduate only because we strongly believe in this 4 year journey. If I get master students, they're very professionally inclined, they don't have time and they're already matured in their thinking. So I don't have much space to change their thoughts. Now, that being said, there are a lot of constraints in running universities. Perhaps the most highly regulated space in the country. I mean, there's very few things written about it, but highly regulated because private universities are always seen with a sense of skepticism because there have been cases in the past of some type of cheating happening, fraud happening. So there's over regulation. So to innovate and do many things is very difficult, but it's good that we have started and we are doing few things. Being a university gives us some flexibility. Now, what have we chosen to do at Rishihood? Other than the undergraduate focus, other than the residential focus, we have created something called the Rishihood Foundation Program. Now, what this means is, like you are saying, vision for life. The first year, 360 hours, that is equivalent to 24 credits, hmm, is dedicated to shaping your worldview, right? It is primarily to give you a answer for the why of education. Because today, and you mentioned AI, you mentioned other things, everybody knows that whatever the teacher is teaching, it is available to me at a moment's notice in a much better quality and format. It is there. It is personalized, right? Now, the why should I study this is not you teach the content, right? Or the information is sent, but it is very difficult to retain motivation in the classroom. You will have to give them a larger purpose for their education. So this foundation program helps them understand themselves, understand society and its issues, understand the global context. So the first semester is who am I? What is our nation about? What are the global challenges, right? So it gives you a context. The second semester is a solutioning. So it is systems thinking. Again, a very Indic concept because things are integral, things are interconnected. You have to understand that. Principles of design. So how do you craft solutions, right, from a end user perspective? And the third thing is technology and policy. How do you scale solutions into policy? So you don't only create solutions that are products and services, but you institutionalize them in the system also. Right? So we take them from understanding Swabhava and Swadharma, understanding your nation, understanding the country, all the way up to how do you solve problems at scale. So this is the foundation given to every incoming student. It is mandatory that they undergo this. Now, after this, if I study computer science, I'm always thinking, how do I use this to solve a problem that I'm motivated by? If I'm studying design or if I'm studying entrepreneurship or psychology, everything is driven by there's a larger purpose to my education, right? So this is how Rishihood has crafted its educational design, right? Uh, so there is what we say is personal impact. So in terms of your character, right, building on that, then we say professional impact. So you should also be masters in your own disciplines. And the third thing is public impact. So personal, profession, and public. So when life gives you an opportunity, you should contribute for a larger cause. You should not restrict yourself to yourself and your family. You should also think of contributing to life. So this is the foundational principles of Rishihood. That's how we have crafted our whole educational design. So that being said, challenges, if I have to come to that, I would say first, it's not about as much about philanthropic support that is difficult, but still you can raise that. I think faculty orientation is very important
Mhm.
because faculty have not come from this perspective.
Mhm.
So academia is a very individualistic pursuit, right? A great PhD has primarily spent 5, 6 years of their life solving a very micro problem in depth, right? Now, when we take that person and put them into a classroom and ask that person to expand the worldview of the student and work in a multidisciplinary way, work with keeping society at the forefront, not that they are not intending to do this, they don't have the toolkit to do this, they don't know how. So, we'll have to reorient the way the faculty is. So, I think this is a sad thing that we have prioritized research and publications for our faculty eminence. But teaching, coaching, mentoring is equally important, if not more important, in today's context. So, like these are not valued, right? While you're either doing a research problem or in your faculty appraisals, promotions, this is not talked about as much. But that is what we need today. So
Mhm.
the research depth is good, but that is as a limited utility, right? So I think we'll have to think about it that way. So faculty reorientation is very important. Point one. Secondly, learner orientation is very important because today education is seen as a transaction, right? So what happens is the student coming into Rishihood or any other university is very clear that I am paying so much fees At the end of 4 years, sir, in Times of India, I saw that IIT Bombay gets 1 crore salary. Will you also give 1 crore salary? Right? It is not that person's fault. It is just the societal pressure and the narrative that is going, plus the parental influence also. So the entire education system is seen as a transaction that I pay so much and I get so much in return. So this ROI is worth it. Okay. So the concept of any Shraddha, focusing on long-term gains, this doesn't exist. I mean, it is there. So if the family upbringing is there, of course it is there. But on a average, a person who walks into our university is typically thinking, okay, kya placement, kitna package and all. Over a period of time, they may appreciate what we are doing, but that takes a lot of effort. For example, if I'm teaching, our first course is self and society. So understanding yourself, you are initiated into a yogic practice. You are initiated into some community work. You mentioned decentralized solutions and all these things. The constant question bugging the person in their mind, the student in their mind is, isse mera kya? How does this translate into a better job, better package? Right? So it takes tremendous effort for us to reorient their thinking. Okay. So we'll have to demonstrate successes where I think then this perspective will change. And as you mentioned, backward linkages. So we'll have to go to K-12, orient the students right there, select from there the right-minded people. So this is a big challenge. Reorienting faculty to the Rishihood way of thinking, reorienting our students to the Rishihood way of learning, right? So this is a challenge. Regulatory challenges are of course there. You can't innovate too much on curriculum. There are always guidelines, multiple regulating agencies, right? Everybody says prescribed syllabus ye hai. So lot of oversight, lot of oversight. So rankings is a problem. Rankings is all biased towards one size fits all. Publications, you know this about very well, QS rankings and other rankings, right? That are dominated. That so they all put one. I'm not even saying that there is any subtle agenda there, but just once you make something very uniform, right? So there is no everything looks the same, right? There's nothing different. If you try something different, you'll fall out of all these accreditation rankings, right? So regulatory is the third challenge. But that being said, I think things are getting better. I think once we demonstrate successes, a lot of things will automatically people will self-select and choose Rishihood. We would want to demonstrate that you can be professionally very competent, personally having a high character, and giving back, right? It is possible. Currently, it looks like it's an impossible thing to do, but it's not so. You can deliver this. You have 4 years residential campus. You can do it. We are selecting our students. We are doing the way we can do very free, lot of freedom we have. So we want to demonstrate this, and eventually, over a period of time, we would want the Rishihood model to be open sourced, in the sense that anybody who wants to pick up our curriculum, our teacher training modules, right, our research that we have published, right, or any products that we have made, we would want to give back to society, right? So that is, we don't want to expand Rishihood. Okay, we are so many thousand students, we'll become 10,000, 20,000. That's not our goal. We want to be more of a thought leader in that sense, right? Others will kind of take up this idea and adapt it to their own local needs and implement it. So we want to give it back in that sense. So that's where we are. This hopefully addresses what you wanted me to speak about, and hopefully this is giving a vision for life for our learners. Uh, I'll tell you one more thing. Our most popular program is the BTech program, and you can totally understand why it is so. Okay. About 12 lakh people give JEE mains. As we speak, mains is happening. Maybe 10,000 people get in, right? I mean, it is just crazy numbers. And people have no clue why they're doing this. They're just doing it through societal pressure and possibly, okay, you get good pays, you get to go to abroad and all that stuff, right? When they come in, within the first or second semester, most of them will realize if they're meant for this life or not, right? So you kind of know that am I a programmer who will fall in love with my laptop and code all night, or am I meant for something else? Now, most academic programs are very rigid. They don't allow this flexibility to switch out and do something else. So it takes time to realize your swabhav, right? So, but once they realize it, there is very little option given for switching. So you'll have to slog through it, complete it somehow. Once you complete it, you hate that subject. right? Then you try to switch your discipline, right? It becomes a lifelong kind of a scar in your psyche, right?
Mm,
That
mm,
because everybody's today coming out of coaching centers, right? You know this very well, right? If physics wala is doing an IPO, it is something sad, right? It is not something to be happy about, right? So, right, so this whole coaching industry, right? Everybody's logging for hours together there every day. They come with no exposure to the world and its issues. They just jump into engineering or some other popular streams. Then they realize they're not meant for it. So we are kind of wasting a huge potential, right? And not just that, I think we are kind of making very people with an inferiority complex. They think they didn't make it, right? So they think they didn't make it to IIT. They the whole life they just think they didn't make it to IIT, and then
mm,
they think they're not meant for computer science, right? Because they couldn't make it there. So just imagine the kind of mental trauma that we are pushing our population through. So one thing at Rishiyod is, of course, you mentioned multidisciplinary. So there are
mm,
options of choosing minors.
mm,
So you come into computer science, but then you realize your interest lies elsewhere. So you could choose other subjects. Not switch your discipline completely, but you can choose a lot of credits from other majors and try to complete your degree. That happens from second year onwards. Once they undergo the foundation, a lot of people get clarity on what they have to do, and then they can switch and do other things. So I think such type of experiments are being tried, and we are so far seeing good results. And hopefully, I'll have some case studies to share with you in the subsequent months or years. Yeah.
mhm.
I'll stop
Right.
here and I'll possibly take some questions if you have any. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. I think I open it on to our other audience, but what the daring and roaring what Shobhiji has done, and individual visions are always supported by institutional visions to create a futuristic institution where the entire first year is devoted to all the conversations what we are having for the last 4 days. I think for 8 long months, for the whole 1 year, जो स्वभाव और स्वधर्म की बात है जिसका संस्कार somewhere these experiments are seen largely at the K-12 level कि people have endeavored this kind of a philosophical experimentation at the schooling level. They feel that, but to really bring it to the higher education level is certainly, we can say, quite visionary and quite path breaking. The way you are saying that, I think this is mind boggling, and that is what Rishihood is all about. And that is what the visions are all. They are not just for copying and pasting or things like that. So maybe Dr. Surbi, would you like to add upon something or some question to Shobiji for that matter? Yeah.
So it's really heartening to hear Shobhitji speak about the vision and mission, I should say, of Rishihood University. And this is what the country needs, creating rishis in every field, be it any field, we need to emerge as rishis of our respective sectors and domains. And I would like to put a small, I should say, a question to Shobhit for the larger knowledge of our audience that, like what in your terms would be a rishi, how you would define a rishi in today's modern contemporary world where there is, शिक्षा का जो मूल उद्देश्य है वह आज हमने इस पंचवर्षीय अनुष्ठान में ये पाया कि उदरपूर्ति की ओर हम बढ़ रहे हैं अपनी शिक्षा नीतियों में। हालांकि जब हम कहते हैं कि एनईपी focuses on holistic development and education from the roots and taking the in the school education, K-12 education, higher education, a holistic educational, you should say, development of the mind. So how, what in your paribhasha, how would you define a true rishi, be it in any domain?
Okay. I'll come to that. I think first I'll take Raghavji's point. I'll elaborate that. You are right that K-12 education, a lot of innovation has happened uh,
Mm-hmm.
because there is time and it is not seen very professional, right? But somehow higher education, there's pressures
Mm,
that if you say that we do all this, then oh, there's a lot of FOMO bolte hai na. People think they'll be left behind. What will happen? My other colleagues are going and studying this, right? Why don't you teach this? So there is the higher education has less space for, in that sense, innovating and trying something very bold. So that's true. That is why I don't think a lot of it has happened. But I think there are few people here, and what we are attempting to do is on that direction. So we should show models that there can be alternate forms of higher education. Rishihood is one example of that. On your question of what would Rishi, how do we define a Rishi? See, of course, Swami Vivekananda defined it as mantra drishta, in the sense that you are one with the truth. Okay, now that is a very elaborate or a very high abstract idea that you are able to visualize the truth. When he uses the word rishihood in his lecture at Madurai, he says a rishi is a mantra drishta. Of course, we'll have to translate it into our context, at least in the rishihood context. So what you
Mhm.
could say is somebody whose actions are aligned with their purushartha, right? So they are bounded by dharma, right? And they are pursuing their pleasures, prosperity, right? In the larger context of dharma, right? Self-regulated and towards a larger purpose. Right now, this is easier said than done because first of all, dharma की मतलब परिभाषा ही थोड़ी ये है, but it is some form of sustainable, right? Something that is sustainable that can continue for long, right? And self-regulated, not externally influenced. And all your desires and pursuits have to be bounded by that towards a larger purpose. If we could create graduates with that type of kind of life mission, right?
Mhm.
I think we can say that relatively we have succeeded in creating some rishis. I think it's a lofty goal, but still the attempts are in that direction. So if you know that, so that's the reason I said personal impact, professional impact, and public impact. So personal impact is understanding dharma in your life in that sense, right? Professional impact is pursuit of your pleasures and the prosperity. But public impact is to give back, right? Fulfill your ranas. Right? So this is something, if you can create such people, people will choose one of the three or at best two of the three. Professional impact, I'm sure IITs are doing very well, great packages. There are some organizations that are very spiritual in nature and focus particularly on creating good individuals, but then they don't focus as much on their professional success. There are some social work type of organizations that are particularly focused on doing social work, but they don't focus as much on their personal and their professional success. Right? So if you, it is a kind of a trilemma. If you can do these three together in your 4 years, we are possibly creating some initial seeds of rishihood have been planted, I would say. Now that will take its time to kind of germinate and blossom, but we want to create this type of an outlook for life.
So vision has to be really intractable to look on the face of it, and that's what a vision is all about. And if I may expand it, like reverberating with Indic sanskaras, having holistic intelligence, perhaps that can be a very rudimentary interpretation of Rishi for that matter. And what Shobiji has really presented, we wish him all the best, the
Mm.
entire Rishihood team. And on this very occasion of International Education Day, that this very seed in that seat of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sonipat perhaps was one of the 5 villages what Sri Krishna asked कि हमें 5 गांव ही दे दीजिए. So I think कृष्ण की वो वाणी वहां से that global voice, this experimentation where the foundations are really laid in that first year of undergraduate education,
Correct.
the truly phenomenal one. Value vision को आगे मुखरित करने के लिए शोभित जी ने विजन बहुत डेयरिंग और रोरिंग रखा, पर हाउ टू डिफेंड, हाउ टू टेक ऑन दिस विजन फॉर eons together to really make it a colossal reality, and that's where defending the values which constitute that vision come into place. And we have yet another very inspiring figure with us, how to defend the values as in personal beliefs to tread on with integrity and fulfillment in life. So Sobiji's personal values led to this vision of Richihood. And now I would bring in Ashutosh Gupta to really tell more as to how to go about it in today's times of VUCA. And that will be our valedictory address by Yogi Yogesh Kocharji, who will be joining us from the Dharamshala, just near Dalai Lama ji's place. That is the yogic imperative of Sanatan Bharat. Ashutosh is currently the partner with Siani Analytics, and his pedigree comes from the IIT Kharagpur and the University of Maryland. So, पूरा विश्व का अवलोकन आशुतोष जी ने किया है, और जो कुछ चल रहा है, जो एक दिशा और धारा है, उस दिशा और धारा में वैल्यूज की बात आज लगती है कि एज इफ व्हाट शोभित जी टॉक्ड अबाउट कि बड़ा दकियानुसी, बड़ा रिग्रेसिव, बड़ा एक अलग सी बात है, बट देयर आर पीपल हु आर रियली ट्रेडिंग इट अक्रॉस. सो आशुतोष, over to you as to what you would like to add upon on this discourse.
Thank you. Thanks, Raghav. Thanks, Surbhi, and thanks to all the speakers over last 3-4 days. It has been a wonderful learning experience from day one to yesterday and just this last talk. And one of the, big challenges of speaking after someone like Shobhit ji is that most of your uh, talking points are already covered, so you don't know what you are going to talk about now. But since I've been given this task, I will continue and share some thoughts on this. So let me. Can you, Raghav? Can you please give me the? I want to
Yeah,
share my.
yeah, surely.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Are you able to see the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as Raghav mentioned, the topic is uh, defending values, as in personal beliefs, to tread on in life with integrity and fulfillment. Right. So, the goal here, or this purnata or fulfillment, is our goal here, right? Or sadhya, and sadhan is mulyon ki raksha, defending values. That is the means by which we achieve our goals here. Right? So let's start with the goal. Let's try to dig deeper into the goal, as Shobhitji just mentioned. Purnata, as defined in Western world, there's a famous philosopher, German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, who gives a formula of fulfillment. And he says fulfillment is equal to how many desires you have fulfilled divided by how many desires you have, right? So the ratio of these two gives your level of fulfillment, right? And if you have to increase your fulfillment, then you increase the number of fulfilled desires. That will give you more desires you fulfill, the more fulfillment you have. And that's kind of the crux of the Western material viewpoint, Western material darshan. But we, on the eastern side, we have also looked at the denominator, and we say that uh, there's one way to increase purnata or fulfillment is by increasing the numerator. Another way is by decreasing the denominator. That will also increase the fulfillment. So, and this is not happening by killing or by daman of our इच्छा. Like हमारी जो इच्छा है उनका दमन करके नहीं हो रहा है, उनका शमन करके हो रहा है. और उस शमन को कैसे करना, उसको कैसे अचीव करना, उसका पूरा एक प्रोसेस हमारी भारतीय पद्धति ने डेवलप किया है. तो पूर्णता हमारे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है सांसारिक इच्छाओं की पूर्ति से जो पूर्णता मिलेगी. वहां न्यूमरेटर जैसे ही कुछ इच्छाएं पूरी होंगी, कुछ नई इच्छाएं जन्म लेंगी. तो वो जो इच्छा पूरी हुई, वो जो पूर्णता का अनुभूति है वो अस्थाई है, वो हमेशा बदलती रहेगी, वो कभी एक स्टेबल स्टेज पे नहीं पहुंचेगी. तो इस अस्थाई चीज को, इस अस्थाई पूर्णता और इस अस्थाई सुख को हमारे यहाँ काम की श्रेणी में रखा है. और जो सांसारिक इच्छाओं से मुक्ति से होने वाली पूर्णता है, वो जो सुख है वो स्थायी है. उसे हमारे यहाँ मोक्ष कहा है. मोक्ष मतलब, या जिसे निर्वाण कहते हैं, वाण वाण का मतलब होता है आग, फायर ऑफ डिजायर. When that fire of desire gets shaman, that when that gets shant, that is what is nirvan or moksha, a state once achieved. You don't have this up and down of joy and sorrow, right? You get out of the cycle of joy and sorrow. So together, these two, uh, we can club under one pursuit, that is pursuit for sukh or joy. All of us, all living beings are desiring sukh, right? We all want sukh. There is nobody who wants dukh in life, right? We all, whether it's a newborn child to a teenager to adult to even old age, not just in any class. And the definition that our shastras give for sukh is anukul vedaniyam sukham, pratikul vedaniyam dukham. Whatever is anukul to our senses, to our antakaran, that we call as sukh. And whatever is pratikul, whatever is unfavorable, that is dukh. And this is a universal definition, as we have been discussing since yesterday. And this is does not only apply for human beings, but for plants, animals, birds, any for all living beings. This definition of sukh and dukh applies, right? So that's about our goal or sadhya, which is purnata, right? Now let's talk about the sadhan, which is defending values. So let's discuss what are these values in the Western context. So I'm starting with the Western context because that's how the title is, and we are more used to thinking about these things in Western terms. But then I'm again going to try to take it to our Indic understanding, our way of thinking. So mulya, when we say mulya, what is something that comes to your mind, right? Maybe something like naitik mulya, moral or ethical values. Maybe something like human values, right? Or you may talk about family values, right? So first two are more at a personal level, एक व्यक्तिगत स्तर पे बात हो रही है, फिर एक पारिवारिक स्तर पर हो रही है, और फिर उससे एक बड़े समाज के या राष्ट्र के स्तर पर हम सांस्कृतिक मूल्यों की बात कर सकते हैं, सामाजिक मूल्यों की या राजनीतिक मूल्यों की बात कर सकते हैं. अब जब हम इन चीजों को वेस्टर्न कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देख रहे हैं, तो वेस्टर्न कॉन्टेक्स्ट में वैल्यूज और ड्यूटीज को सेपरेट करके उन्होंने देखा है. ड्यूटीज आर समथिंग एक्सटर्नल and values are something like internal guiding principles that are not binding. Duties are more binding in the Western context. But when we take it into the Indic context, we put all these under the umbrella of dharma. They are not two separate things, they are deeply intertwined. उनका जो अंतर गुम्फन है वो बहुत गहरा है और उनको अलग नहीं किया जा सकता है हमारे चिंतन में, राइट? और धर्म की बहुत परिभाषा है. धर्म अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ा विषय है. आप धर्म की परिभाषा देखने जाएंगे तो डिक्शनरीज में 10 पेज तक धर्म की परिभाषा चलती रहती है, मगर आप उसको कहीं ना कहीं एक इंटरसेक्शन ऑफ वैल्यूज, ड्यूटीज, essential qualities of something, essentials of some being, और इन सब के इंटरसेक्शन में आप यदि उनको कहेंगे तो बट महाभारत में, हमारे धर्मशास्त्रों में धर्म की बहुत व्यापक परिभाषाएं दी हुई हैं. मनुस्मृति में धर्म के 10 लक्षण बताए हैं जो आप इन वैल्यूज में अलग अलग जगह फिट कर सकते हैं. याज्ञवल्क्य के स्मृति में अलग से डेफिनेशन बताइए. हमारे सभी शास्त्रों में, इतिहास शास्त्रों में, धर्मशास्त्रों में विस्तार से इसकी चर्चा हुई है. मगर मैं उसको समरी में यदि एक श्लोक में कहना चाहूं तो उसमें हम ये कह सकते हैं कि आत्मनः प्रतिकूलानि परेशान न समाचार है, जिसे कि वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड में हम गोल्डन रूल के नाम से बहुत फेमस है कि जो आपको खुद के लिए अच्छा नहीं लगता है वैसा दूसरों के लिए नहीं करें. तो वो वैल्यूज को एक तरीके से समराइज करने का एक काम यहाँ पे करता है. तो हमने हमारे गोल्स यानी फुलफिलमेंट की बात की और ये हमारे वैल्यूज की बात की. तो अब इन दोनों को टाई अप करके हम आगे चलते हैं. तो हम देखते हैं कि हमारा जो साध्य है, जो गोल है, यानी सुख की जो इच्छा है, उसके लिए हमें धर्म की चाह है. और धर्म को धर्म के निर्वहन के लिए, धर्म के संरक्षण के लिए, टू कैरी आउट आवर ड्यूटीज, आवर वैल्यूज और लिव बाय आवर वैल्यूज, अर्थ is very important. And in last 2-3 days, in different contexts, we have talked about earth as Ashtalakshmi, or the power that sustains dharma. It is not just wealth, it is different types of wealth. It is also health comes in this. It is the vitality that allows you to sustain dharma. यदि हम इसको इन सबको आगे बढ़ के देखें तो चार पुरुषार्थ, ये चार, these are four pursuits. All these are pursuits towards joy, towards that sukh that does not end. People are searching for it in different places, but essentially all these four pursuits, dharma, artha, kam, and moksha, are pursuits towards that sukh, right? Which is what we also want in our discussion today. Now, let's think about what if one of these are dropped from our focus, right? So if we ignore just one of these from our chintan, from our focus, if we drop sukh, right, then we have lost the purpose. Like everybody wants sukh, so that's not practical. We cannot ignore sukh, right? Can we ignore arth? राइट, अर्थ, जैसा हमने बात किया अष्टलक्ष्मी या जो धन संपदा, कैन वी इग्नोर अर्थ? अर्थ कैन नॉट बी इग्नोर्ड एट एनी लेवल, राइट? व्यक्ति के स्तर पर, परिवार के स्तर पर, समाज या राष्ट्र के स्तर पर यदि हम, हमारे पास अर्थ नहीं है तो हम अपने व्यक्तिगत धर्म का पालन नहीं कर पाएंगे। मेरी तबीयत खराब है, पैसा नहीं है, मैं हॉस्पिटल नहीं जा सकता। मेरे पिताजी की तबीयत खराब है, मैं उनकी सेवा नहीं कर सकता बिना पैसे के। समाज में कोई जरूरत है, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता। सरकार कितनी भी अच्छी हो, लेकिन पैसा नहीं है तो लोगों की सेवा कैसे करेगी? बिना अर्थ के आप अपने किसी भी धर्म का पालन नहीं कर सकते हो। बिना अर्थ के आप धर्म का भी पालन, यदि आप अपने परिवार की सेवा नहीं कर पा रहे हो तो आप सुखी कैसे हो सकते हो? आपके पास अर्थ, जो आपके सुख के सारे साधन हैं, उनके लिए आपको अर्थ की जरूरत है, तो आप अर्थ को इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते। बहुत सुंदर कहानी आती है अपने शास्त्रों में कि विश्वामित्र जी एक बार बहुत तपस्या कर रहे थे, बहुत भूखे थे, अकाल पड़ा था, कुछ खाने को नहीं था, तो उनकी परीक्षा ली जा रही है वैसे तो, लेकिन वो एक कुत्ते से, एक दूसरे मरे हुए कुत्ते की जांघ का मांस का टुकड़ा छीन के खाते हैं। पहले तो कुत्ते को खाना ही बहुत जघन्य अपराध जैसा माना गया है, और दूसरा भी वो मांस का टुकड़ा उनका खुद का अर्जित किया हुआ नहीं है, वो किसी से चुरा के, और वो भी एक निर्बल से चुरा के खा रहे हैं, जो कि कुत्ता अपने आप को डिफेंड नहीं कर सकता है। विश्वामित्र जी बहुत शक्तिशाली राजा रहे हैं, उनके सामने वो कुत्ते की कोई अपने आप को डिफेंड करने की क्षमता नहीं है। तो उससे जब, तो अर्थ के अभाव में जब विश्वामित्र जी ऐसा कर रहे हैं, तो उसे लोगों ने आपद धर्म कहा कि इमरजेंसी धर्म है, यदि ये नहीं होता तो वो मर जाते, नहीं खाते तो क्या करते? तो देखिए, अर्थ के अभाव में जो अधर्म है वो भी आपद धर्म हो गया है, राइट? तो कोई भी सोसाइटी अर्थ के अभाव में, ये आज हम पूरी दुनिया में देख रहे हैं कि यदि अर्थ का अभाव है तो सोसाइटी स्टेबल नहीं रह सकती। तो अर्थ का अभाव भी ठीक नहीं है, अर्थ का बहुत प्रभाव भी ठीक नहीं है, उसके ऊपर हम 2 मिनट में बात करते हैं। तो अर्थ के अभाव से बात नहीं बनेगी। क्या हम धर्म को इग्नोर कर सकते हैं? धर्म को इग्नोर करने से कि हमारे पास अर्थ बहुत है, सारी सुख सुविधाएं हैं, क्या हम धर्म को इग्नोर कर सकते हैं? तो ये अवस्था पतन के शुरुआत की अवस्था है। हमारे यहाँ विदुर नीति में कहा है कि मादक चीजों का नशा है, वो तो नशा फिर भी कुछ टाइम में उतर जाता है, लेकिन जो ऐश्वर्य का, बिना धर्म के जो ऐश्वर्य मिला है, उसका नशा तो भ्रष्ट हुए बिना उतरता नहीं है। तो ये तो पतन की शुरुआत है। तो धर्म को भी हम इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते। अब क्या, तो हमने देखा कि किसी एक को हम इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते। क्या हम केवल एक पे फोकस कर सकते हैं? केवल हम सुख पे फोकस करें और धर्म और अर्थ की चिंता छोड़ दें तो वो तो डे ड्रीमिंग है। बिना धर्म और अर्थ के सुख तो हो ही नहीं सकता, जैसा हम देख चुके हैं, राइट? यदि हम अर्थ को छोड़ दें तो अधर्म और दुख बढ़ेगा। इसकी भी हमने अभी कुछ चर्चा की है। इसके ऊपर बहुत सुंदर चर्चा हुई थी दूसरे दिन के उसमें कि मैडम अनुपमा मिश्रा ने, ये बहुत ही सुंदर, सुनने लायक एक 40-45 मिनट का उनका वक्तव्य था। मैं बहुत आग्रह करूंगा, डे 2 की वीडियो ऑलरेडी अपलोड हो चुका है। वहां जाके सुने वो कितना एक मार्मिक चित्रण कर रही हैं कि पेरेंट्स कैसे केवल अर्थ के पीछे फोकस कर रहे हैं, उनके पास अपने बच्चों से भी बात करने के लिए समय नहीं है। यदि कोई उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल दिया कि कोई माँ या पिताजी बच्चे से कह रहे हैं कि चलो आओ बेटा थोड़ी देर बैठ के बात करते हैं, तो बच्चे कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं कि आज मम्मी पापा बात क्यों करना चाहते हैं हमसे। हाँ, इसका उल्टा भी होता है कि बच्चे इतने बिजी हैं कि बूढ़े माँ बाप के पास बैठने के लिए समय नहीं है। कभी जाके बैठे हैं तो बूढ़े माँ बाप को लगता है कि क्या चाहिए, जरूर कुछ ना कुछ चाहिए मुझसे। हाँ, तो इसका बहुत सुंदर उन्होंने आप एक शिक्षक की दृष्टि से, एक पेरेंट्स की दृष्टि से, समाज की दृष्टि से, का बहुत कि केवल अर्थ पे फोकस करने के उसके केवल अधर्म बढ़ेगा और आगे जाके हम सबके लिए दुख का वो कारण बनेगा। केवल हम धर्म पर फोकस करें, हाँ, केवल, और बाकी अर्थ और सुख की चिंता ना करें, केवल धर्म पर फोकस करें, तो उससे मिथ्याचार होगा। बिना अर्थ के, बिना समाज में सुख या परिवार में अन्य लोगों के सुख के लिए की चिंता किए बिना केवल धर्म पे फोकस करना इज जस्ट हिपोक्रेसी, राइट। इसका बहुत सुंदर उदाहरण हमने पहले दिन में देखा था, जब अपने
रवि चौधरी।
हाँ, रवि जी ने ये बहुत सुंदर, उन्होंने यहाँ उनके वक्तव्य में से मैंने एक उदाहरण लिया है कि केवल धर्म पर जो फोकस करेगा वो तो सबसे ज्यादा अंधकार की बात करता है। बड़ा अच्छा चित्रण है, लगभग 40 मिनट पे उस वीडियो में आता है। मैं सबसे आग्रह करूंगा, पूरा टॉक बहुत अच्छा था। इनके बाद में भी बहुत अच्छे वक्ताओं ने उस दिन भी बोला। तो हम किसी एक चीज को भी फोकस नहीं कर सकते। केवल धर्म को ऊपर किया और अर्थ को हमने छोड़ दिया तो वो ठीक भी नहीं है, और हमारे यहाँ ऐसा हुआ भी नहीं है। भारतीय संस्कृति में अर्थ के ऊपर जो हमारा विचार है, जो चिंतन है, उसके ऊपर मैंने पहले में भी लिखा है, यदि आपकी इच्छा हो तो ये पढ़ सकते हैं, प्लेस ऑफ वेल्थ इन इंडियन कल्चर। एंड विद अ लॉट ऑफ डेटा आई हैव शोन कि जैसे ये एक ओईसीडी कंट्रीज की एक स्टडी है जिसके अंदर पिछले 2000 सालों का डेटा उन्होंने निकाला है, उसको यहाँ पे जस्ट प्लॉट करके दिखा रहे हैं कि भारत में हमारी जो अर्थव्यवस्था रही वो लगभग 1500 वर्षों तक, तो पिछले 2000 साल में से 1500 वर्षों तक तो हम दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था से लगभग 25% से 33%, लेकिन सबसे लगभग 1830 तक भी हम दुनिया की दूसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था थे। लेकिन जब हमारे पास अर्थ चला गया, राइट, जब हम अपने अर्थ की रक्षा नहीं कर पाए, तो धर्म की बातें तो रह गई, लेकिन उस धर्म को इंप्लीमेंट करने के लिए, उसको धर्म को जीने के लिए, उन जीवन मूल्यों को, उन मूल्यों को अपने जीवन में उतारने के लिए हमारे पास साधन ही नहीं रहे। तो इसीलिए आज हम सुनते हैं 100 में से 99 बेईमान मगर फिर भी मेरा भारत महान। वो बात क्यों हो रही है? हमारे पास वो जीवन मूल्य हैं, हम उनको जीना भी चाहते हैं, मगर उनको जीने के साधन समाज के एक बड़े वर्ग के पास से चले गए हैं। तो ये जो अर्थ की बात है, पूर्णता के लिए, फुलफिलमेंट के लिए हमें एक होलिस्टिक अप्रोच को लेना पड़ेगा, जहां हम धर्मपूर्ण अर्थ का अर्जन करें और उस अर्थ को धर्मयुक्त धर्म से धर्म पूर्वक उसका सेवन करें। तो हमारी जो सुख की चाह है वो पूरी हो सकती है, भौतिक सुखों की, सांसारिक सुखों की भी, और हम अपने उस पारलौकिक सुख या उस स्थायी सुख की तरफ भी बढ़ सकते हैं जिसकी हमें चाह है। ऐसा सुख जो एक बार प्राप्त होने के बाद कभी कम ना हो, राइट। और ये चीज व्यक्तिगत स्तर पर भी है, पारिवारिक, समाज और राष्ट्र के स्तर पर भी है। लेट मी जस्ट टॉक अबाउट व्यक्तिगत स्तर पर। जो यदि हम किसी पर्सनल परस्यूट में, हम किसी की एक चीज में अधिकता हो सकती है जिसकी जिसकी केवल मोक्ष की तरफ अधिक, जिसका प्रमुख उद्देश्य मोक्ष है, उसको हमारे शास्त्रों में ब्राह्मण कहा है। जिसका प्रमुख उद्देश्य अर्थ है, बाकी को इग्नोर नहीं कर रहे हैं, लेकिन प्रमुख प्रवृत्ति, स्वभाव, जिसकी बात अभी हम पिछले लेक्चर में, शोभित जी के लेक्चर में भी कर रहे हैं, कि स्वभाव में जिसके प्रमुखता से अर्थ है उसे वैश्य कहा है, जिसके स्वभाव में प्रमुखता से धर्म की बात है उसे क्षत्रिय कहा है, और जिसके प्रभाव में प्रमुखता से काम की बात है उसे शूद्र कहा है। और ये केवल मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, ये गीता के अंदर आप देखेंगे तो भगवत गीता के 18वें अध्याय के 42 से 44 श्लोक में 4 बार स्वभावजम अलग अलग कहा है। ब्राह्मण के लिए, क्षत्रिय के लिए, वैश्य और शूद्र के लिए स्वभावजम, इट इज फ्रॉम योर ओन पर्सनल टेंडेंसीज। This is like like Myers-Briggs. We talk about personality traits. These are the 4 types of tendencies that are out there in people. People have these innate tendencies in them. And then in the next one, concluding, Krishna says कि अपने अपने स्वभाव में रत रहकर आप सबको वो सिद्धि की, वो पूर्णता की प्राप्ति हो सकती है। आपको अपना स्वभाव छोड़कर स्वधर्म में निधनम श्रेय पर धर्म भयावह का है कि आप अपने स्वभाव में रहते हुए उस सिद्धि की प्राप्ति कर सकते हो, राइट। तो और इसके बहुत सारे उदाहरण हैं, जैसे जो ऐसे उदाहरण हैं जो एक जगह से शुरू हुए और अलग जगह चले गए, राइट। परशुराम ब्राह्मणत्व से शुरू किया मगर क्षत्रियत्व में पहुंच गए। भामाशाह वैश्य बहुत बड़े दानी रहे, अर्थ से शुरू किया मगर धर्म के जो काम भामाशाह ने किए उसका आज भी शायद कोई सानी ना हो, राइट। भर्तृहरि एक राजा थे, उन्होंने श्रृंगार शतक लिखा है, उन्होंने नीति शतक भी लिखा है और वैराग्य शतक भी लिखा है। शूद्र में वाल्मीकि का बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण है, कबीर, रैदास, जिन्होंने वहां से शुरू करके मोक्ष की पराकाष्ठा, मोक्ष के मार्ग को न केवल खुद प्राप्त किया और पूरे लोगों के लिए भी दिखाया। तो ये एक कोई स्थिर नहीं है। दीज टेंडेंसीज, दीज स्वभाव कैन चेंज, इवॉल्व। ये कोई हार्ड फिक्स्ड चीजें नहीं है। इसके ऊपर एक बहुत सुंदर राजीव मल्होत्रा जी की एक पुस्तक है, वर्णा जाति और कास्ट, जिसमें धर्मपाल जी के और कई बहुत अच्छे रेफरेंसेस लेके, यदि आप में से किसी की रुचि हो तो देख सकते हैं। बहुत ही सुंदर उन्होंने इसमें काम किया है। तो अब व्यक्तिगत स्तर से बढ़कर सामाजिक स्तर पर चलते हैं। सामाजिक स्तर पर हम यदि देखें तो चाणक्य सूत्रों में बहुत अच्छे इसका सुंदर उदाहरण दिया है कि यदि किसी समाज को सुखी होना है तो उसे धर्म का पालन करना होगा। सुखस्य मूलम धर्मः। यदि धर्म का पालन कर रहे हैं, धर्म के पालन के लिए धर्मस्य मूलम अर्थ है, जिसकी बात हमने अभी भी की थी। धर्म का पालन बिना अर्थ के नहीं कर सकते। तो धर्मस्य मूलम अर्थ उन्होंने कहा। अब अर्थस्य मूलम राज्यम। राज्यम यानी जस्टिस और रूल ऑफ लॉ, राइट। तो और राज्य का मूल उन्होंने कहा इंद्रिय जय। यदि हमारे सेंसेस पे कंट्रोल नहीं है तो हम रूल ऑफ लॉ एस्टेब्लिश नहीं कर सकते। कहीं कोई भी हम नया शुरुआत करते हैं, शुरू में सब लोग बहुत एक्साइटेड रहते हैं, बहुत अच्छे से काम करते हैं, बहुत ज्यादा रूल्स रेगुलेशंस की आवश्यकता नहीं होती है। मगर जैसे जैसे समय बढ़ता है, लोगों के अपने पर्सनल प्रेशर्स रहते हैं, पर्सनल डिजायर्स कैन स्टार्ट टू सरफेस। That's where this concept of Indriya Jaya is very important, right? If Indriya Jaya is there, then rules and justice can prevail. If rules and justice are there, then earth can prosper, right? Then earth can be gained, right? Prosperity can be gained. From that, dharma. And with that prosperity, dharma or values can be lived. And with those values, we can achieve our sansarik and parlokik sukh, right? And then this continues. This is very beautiful in Chanakya Sutrani. Then Indriya Jayasya Moolam Vinaya, Vinayasya Moolam Vruddhopasheva. And it goes on. If you have time, do look at it. Now, so with that, let me go towards conclusion. So in conclusion, I just want to say in a couple of slides that, defending personal values in a competitive world is not just a matter of personal integrity. यदि हम अपनी इन वैल्यूज को डिफेंड नहीं करेंगे तो हम केवल अपनी ही नहीं, समाज की भी प्रगति में अपनी भी प्रगति नहीं कर पाएंगे और समाज की भी प्रगति नहीं हो पाएगी, right? And as we resume our roles in our as educators, as leaders or change makers, we should I urge you to reflect on various aspects of your respective dharma and consider how to bring balance among these 4 pursuits in your own life and in life of people around you. Lastly, let me mention this very beautiful set of three verses or three or four verses from Arthashastra of Chanakya, where he says, where he starts with talking about Indriya Jaya, and then he says कि धर्म और अर्थ के अनुसार ही काम का सेवन करें, सुख रहित अर्थात कष्ट के साथ जीवन निर्वाह न करें, सुख का भी स्थान है जीवन में, और धर्म और अर्थ का बराबर सेवन करें, इनमें से किसी एक का बहुत अधिक सेवन करने से बहुत कष्ट होने वाला है। और मगर इन तीनों में चाणक्य अर्थशास्त्र में कह रहे हैं इन तीनों में ही अर्थ प्रधान है, क्योंकि अर्थ के बिना आप बाकी दोनों को नहीं कर पाएंगे। ठीक है, अर्थ मूलौ ही धर्म कामौ इति यहाँ कह रहे हैं। और यदि हम ऐसा करते हैं तो हम एक ऐसे समाज की तरफ बढ़ते हैं जिसका महाभारत में उल्लेख है कि न तत्र राजा राजेंद्र न दंडो न च दांडिका, कि उस समाज में अपने अपने धर्म का पालन करते हुए ही धर्म को जानने वाले लोग आपस में एक दूसरे की रक्षा कर सकते हैं। राइट, ना तो बहुत ज्यादा नियम कानून की जरूरत है, यदि सब लोग अपने कर्तव्यों का पालन करें तो उस समाज की बहुत उन्नत स्थिति वो समाज प्राप्त कर सकता है। तो ये परस्यूट अपनी लाइफ में भी चलती रहती है। अर्थ का परस्यूट तो चलता ही है। जैसा राघव ने बताया कि मैं डेटा साइंटिस्ट हूँ पेशे से, वो मेरा लाइवलीहुड अर्न करता है। सुख की चाह भी चलती है, उसमें धर्म अपने शास्त्रों अपने गुरुओं का सबके आशीर्वाद से सीखने का प्रयास चलता है। समाज की दृष्टि से मैं कुछ दो चीजें और शेयर करना चाहूंगा। एक, हमारा प्रयास चल रहा है हिंदी प्रवेशिका करके एक एप्लीकेशन हमने मोबाइल एप्लीकेशन एंड्रॉइड के लिए अभी बनाई है, जिसको यूज करके हम जिन बच्चों को पेंसिल पकड़ना भी नहीं आता है डे वन पे, उन्हें अंडर 20 to 30 आवर्स के इंस्ट्रक्शन में, जो कि ओवर 30 to 40 डेज पे स्प्रेड आउट हैं, हम पेंसिल पकड़ने से लेकर फ्लुएंटली हिंदी पढ़ना और लिखना सिखा सकते हैं। आप में से कोई भी यदि चाहें तो ये एप्लीकेशन डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं, एंड्रॉइड के ऊपर हिंदी प्रवेशिका के नाम से अवेलेबल है। यहाँ पे लिंक्स दिए हैं, यहाँ पे आपको और डिटेल्स मिल जाएंगी। और इसके अंदर आपको पूरी जानकारी मिल जाएगी। इसमें एप्लीकेशन के साथ भी पढ़ा सकते हैं, एप्लीकेशन के बिना भी पढ़ा सकते हैं। हमने बेसिकली इसमें अभी क्या हो रहा है, स्कूल्स वगैरह में भी सारे विद्यालयों में हिंदी को अंग्रेजी की तरह पढ़ा रहे हैं, तो उससे हिंदी पढ़ाने का क्रम बहुत लंबा हो जाता है। 54 तो हमारे यहाँ अक्षर ही हो जाते हैं, अब अंग्रेजी में 26 अक्षर हैं, वो सीख जाते हैं बच्चे। अब 54 अक्षर के ऊपर मात्राएं आती हैं, उन मात्राओं के सबके साथ कॉम्बिनेशन, अब वो बच्चा सीखते सीखते यदि आप अंग्रेजी की तरह सिखाएंगे तो बहुत समय लग जाता है। लेकिन हमने यहाँ कुछ रिसर्च करके हम 3-4 साल से पढ़ा रहे हैं। जयपुर में कच्ची बस्तियों में भी पढ़ाया हमने, अमेरिका में भी पढ़ाया। अमेरिका में उल्टा प्रॉब्लम है, हिंदी पढ़ाने वाला नहीं है, रिसोर्सेज बहुत हैं मगर हिंदी पढ़ाने वाला नहीं है, मगर सेम मेथड दोनों जगह में काम कर रहा है और सेम रिजल्ट्स हैं। लगभग 1 महीने के अंदर बच्चे फ्लुएंट हिंदी पढ़ना और लिखना सीख सकते हैं। तो ये आप डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं, फ्री है, नो स्ट्रिंग्स अटैच्ड। दिस इज जस्ट to help. Many parents are actually teaching in America. Many parents I know are teaching their kids using this application. And then again, another effort is some data stories to bring about some interesting facts that are helpful in different aspects. So that is another aspect. And with that, I would like to conclude and thank you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. You gave the gist of it all, that the intertwined and interspersed play of the values is perhaps the only way to defend them. It's a quartet, it's a quad. We cannot leave anything aside. It's a fine balance, and striking that balance is the core, I would say, learning all through. तो बहुत ही सुंदर उदाहरणों के साथ आपने पूरी बात को प्रस्तुत किया। वैल्यूज बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हैं। कल के संदर्भ में भी ह्यूमन वैल्यूज की बात हुई, बट वैल्यूज आर बिट एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, बट वैल्यूज इन एक्शन। आपने भगवत गीता का उदाहरण दिया, तो देयर इज अ मेंशन ऑफ अराउंड 26 दैवी संपदा, सो विच इज कॉल्ड द कृष्णाज वर्चुओसिटी इंडेक्स, तो वैल्यूज इन एक्शन, शोभित जी ने बात कही कि विजन, इंडिविजुअल विजन नीड्स फाउंडेशन of an institution, the protection of an institution and perhaps an institution. आपने राज्य के स्तर पर कहा कि सेल्फ रेगुलेटरी व्यवस्था हो, सब अपने धर्म का पालन कर रहे हैं, तो perhaps we have got our next speaker in Dr. Anshuman Shastri, who is carrying forward the legacy of the 90-year-old द बनस्थली विद्यापीठ। और आज इंडियन नेशनल गर्ल चाइल्ड डे के अवसर पर बनस्थली का जो मिशन रहा for the last 90 odd years, and this year 2025 it will be the 90th year of its inception. तो एक संस्थान किस प्रकार से वैल्यूज को वर्चूज में ट्रांसफॉर्म करके इन वेरी रिफाइंड एंड डिफाइंड प्रोसेसेस it can catapult and impregnate it all through. They say that cultural values cannot be taught, but they can be caught in a spirited ecosystem. And perhaps we have one such lovely institution, and the person who is heading the Center for Artificial Intelligence, Banasthali Vidyapeeth, Dr. Anshuman Shastri. और आशुतोष भी AI से आते हैं, और इंटेग्रिटी की भी बात आपने की। तो अभी वर्तमान में ही एक ग्लोबल फसाद मचा हुआ कि एक $multi-billion AI कॉरपोरेशन जो कि नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट से प्रारंभ हुई, पर बीच में आकर वो फॉर प्रॉफिट बन गई, तो उस पर भी काफी विवाद है। तो इंटेग्रिटी ऑफ वैल्यूज इज समथिंग विच इज इन डॉल्ड्रम्स आउट देयर। सो लेट्स हियर फ्रॉम डॉक्टर अंशुमन शास्त्री, हु इज again an enigmatic story, taking the legacy of the Professor Aditya Shastri, and also the university founded by the late Hiralal Shastri ji, whose 50th Punyatithi we just commemorated on 20th of December very recently, कि किस प्रकार से एक संस्थान जनरेशन आफ्टर जनरेशन कैसे उन वैल्यूज को वर्चूज के तहत यू फोर्ज देम फॉर जनरेशन एंड जनरेशंस टू कीप ऑन गोइंग। और जो आशुतोष ने अंत में कहा, न राजा न दांड कहा, एक सेल्फ रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क में हाउ दोस वर्चूज एक्चुअली हेल्प प्रोपेल एक्सेलेंस आउट देयर। डॉक्टर अंशुमन शास्त्री।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको वनस्थली विद्यापीठ से पहले वनस्थली विद्यापीठ की कहानी से थोड़ा सा अवगत करना चाहूंगा, क्योंकि हमारी जो कहानी छुपी है वो अपने आप में बहुत ही अनूठी है। आपने देखा होगा प्राय जो हमारे देश की दुनिया भर की जो शिक्षण संस्थाएं हैं, कुछ सरकार ने बनाई हैं, केंद्र सरकार ने, राज्य सरकार ने, कुछ संस्थाएं हमारे इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट लोग बनाते हैं। हमारी संस्था अपने आप में बहुत अनूठी है, क्योंकि हमारा जो उद्गम हुआ इतने इतनी अभूतपूर्व परिस्थिति में हुआ जिसकी शायद दुनिया में कोई और सानी ना हो। हमारे जो संस्थापक थे पंडित हीरालाल शास्त्री जी, वो बड़ी कम उम्र में बड़ी ऊंची पद पे पहुंच गए थे। वो तब ब्रिटिश इंडियन गवर्नमेंट में वो होम एंड फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी थे। तो सरकार में इतनी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका पे होने के बावजूद भी वो उनको लगता था कि मेरा तो दीदा इस काम में है ही नहीं, मैं तो किसी दूसरे काम के लिए बना हूं। तो गांधी जी की सलाह पे उन्होंने सोचा कि मैं किसी गांव में जाके समाज उत्थान का काम करूंगा, मैं सोशल वॉरियर्स तैयार करूंगा। तो साल भर की खोजबीन के बाद उन्होंने ढूंढा वनस्थली विद्यापीठ जैसी। वनस्थली विद्यापीठ तो खैर तब कहाँ था, तब तो एक छोटा सा बनथली राजस्थान का गांव था, जहां ना बिजली थी, ना यहाँ पे पोस्टल सर्विस थी। तो वो पूरे परिवार के साथ यहाँ आए और उन्होंने ग्रामीण उत्थान का काम शुरू किया। तो उनकी एक बहुत होनहार बेटी थी शांताबाई, जो प्राय रूप से अपने पिता को अपना आइडल मानती थी। उन्होंने तो चाहा कि मैं भी अपने पिता के इस मिशन में अपना हाथ बटाऊं। फिर अपनी नीति को कुछ और परिस्थिति को, कुदरत को कुछ और ही मंजूर था कि 12 वर्ष की अल्पायु में उनको बीमारी हुई और बहुत चंद दिनों की बीमारी में ही वो चल बसे। पापा जी को इसका बहुत भीषण आघात लगा कि अब मेरी इतनी होनहार बेटी, जो 12 वर्ष की आयु में घर का काम काज संभाल लेती थी, पढ़ने लिखने में बहुत निपुण थी, संगीत कला में बड़ी निपुण थी, इतनी छोटी उम्र में चली गई जो आगे जाके मेरा हाथ बटाती। वो कई दिनों तक तो बड़े अवसाद से भरे रहे। वो लोग तो कहते हैं बिस्तर से भी नहीं उठते थे। पर हमारी जो सह संस्थापक थी श्रीमती रतन शास्त्री जी, उन्होंने उनको सिर्फ सांत्वना देने के लिए कहा कि अरे कब तक आप ऐसे बैठे रहेंगे, अगर एक बेटी चली गई तो क्या हम हजारों और ले आएंगे। ये एक लाइन उनको उनके दिमाग में घर कर गई कि मेरी एक शांता चली गई तो क्या, मैं हजारों शांताओं को अपने यहाँ लेके आऊंगा और उनको वैसे पढ़ाऊंगा जैसे मैं अपनी शांता को पढ़ा था। इस विचार के साथ, इस सोच के साथ कि मैं बेटियों को लाऊंगा अपने यहाँ और पढ़ाऊंगा जैसे मैं अपनी बेटी को पढ़ा था, से वनस्थली विद्यापीठ का उद्गम हुआ। सोच तो लिया उन्होंने कि हम ऐसी संस्था बनाएंगे, लेकिन तब तो खैर लड़कियों को पढ़ाना तो दूर, पढ़ाने का सोचना भी एक जुर्म माना जाता था उस समय में। तब भी वो घर घर गए, लोगों से मिन्नतें करके उन्होंने 5 लड़कियों से सन 1935 में वनस्थली विद्यापीठ की शुरुआत की। और जब 5 छात्राओं से हमारी शुरुआत हुई, टुडे वी आर द वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट फुली रेजिडेंशियल वुमेन्स यूनिवर्सिटी, world's second highest ranked women's university, and we cater over 16,000 girls in our massive 850-acre campus. देश विदेश की दुनिया भर रैंकिंग्स भी हमको ऊंचा स्थान देती हैं। और उसके साथ साथ, हेलो
Yeah, please.
हेलो,
Hello, yes.
उसके साथ साथ वनस्थली विद्यापीठ ने इतने समय में इतने अलग अलग तरह के मुकाम हासिल किए हैं, क्योंकि सिर्फ शुरुआत ही नहीं, हमारी पूरी जो यात्रा है वो अपने आप में बड़ी अनूठी कहानी है। We started in a very unique way, and we were notified as a deemed to be university in 1983. So our illustrious founders envisioned कि we lost our daughter, so what? We'll teach others the same way. That idea blossomed into what Vanasli is today. I would like to show you an aerial glimpse of our campus, where you can see when people associate Rajasthan, they think of desert and सारी जो गर्मी से जुड़ी चीजें हैं वही हैं, पर हमने अपने परिसर की कुदरती खूबसूरती को मेंटेन रखा है। कोशिश करिए कि जितना ज्यादा से ज्यादा हम ग्रीनरी मेंटेन कर सके, जितने वनस्थली का जो वन हिस्सा है वो रह सके, वो हम रहें। What sets us apart is the fact that we are not a carbon copy of any university, and we are not a women's university, we are a university for women. हम जानते हैं कि जो हमारा आधुनिक जो फॉर्मल एजुकेशन का जो सिस्टम है वो करीब 1000 साल पुराना है, और हमारा जो वुमेन्स एजुकेशन का सिस्टम है वो करीब करीब 100 साल पुराना है। तो चूंकि महिलाओं की भागीदारी ही शिक्षा में नहीं थी, तो शिक्षा को महिलाओं की दृष्टि से देखा भी नहीं गया है। तो हमारा सतत प्रयास ये रहा है कि महिलाओं की दृष्टि से शिक्षा को ना सिर्फ देखा जाए, बल्कि में उनको शिक्षा उन्हीं की जरूरतों के हिसाब से दी जाए। So our educational ideology is never to be a women's university. We are a university for women. So what started off with very humble beginnings, today we are offering a massive plethora of varied courses across perhaps all the designs, all the streams, all the sections. Even our student enrollment, despite pandemic period, has not dipped significantly, and we have already attained our pre-pandemic numbers with flying colors. Yet another thing that sets us apart is our unique education model, five-fold education system, पंचमुखी शिक्षा। हमारा शुरू से मानना रहा है कि हमारे वेदों में भी ये कहा गया है कि जो संस्कृता जो शिक्षा पद्धति है वह सर्वांगीण विकास के लिए सर्वोचित मानी गई थी हमारे शास्त्रों में, हमारे इतिहास में। तो आज से नहीं, 2020 से नहीं, 1935 से जब से हमने वनस्थली शुरू किया था, तब से हमने शिक्षा के सभी अंगों को अपने सिस्टम में समाहित किया है। फिजिकल, प्रैक्टिकल, एस्थेटिक, इंटेलेक्चुअल एंड मॉरल, जिससे व्यक्तित्व का संपूर्ण विकास, आपकी लर्निंग का संपूर्ण विकास सब हो सके। इनको, ये हमारे 5 स्तंभ रहे हैं शिक्षक, जिनके साथ हम निरंतर सबको ये देते रहते हैं कि आप पढ़ाई के साथ साथ अतिरिक्त क्या क्या सीख पाएंगे। हमारी लड़कियां अपनी नॉर्मल पढ़ाई तो करती हैं ही, उसके साथ साथ उनको लिए कंपलसरी है कि वो कभी ना कभी अपनी इच्छा से कोई एक खेल खेलें, किसी एक प्रैक्टिकल सब्जेक्ट में भाग लें, किसी एक एस्थेटिक आर्टिस्टिक एक्टिविटी में पार्ट लें, संगीत सीखें, घोड़ा चलाना सीखें, हवाई जहाज उड़ाना सीखें, तैराकी सीखें, कोई खेल खेलना सीखें, और उसके साथ मॉरल एजुकेशन में हमारी भारतीय संस्कृति से जुड़ना भी सीखें। एक होता है कि हम मॉरल एजुकेशन को एज सब्जेक्ट पढ़ाएं, हमारे यहाँ ऐसा कोई सब्जेक्ट नहीं है कि जो हम मॉरल एजुकेशन की जगह पढ़ा सके, कि कोई संस्था इस काबिल ही नहीं है कि वो उस शिक्षा को एक सब्जेक्ट की तरह पढ़ा सके। हम मॉरल एजुकेशन को उनके व्यवहार में लाने के लिए जो जो यथोचित प्रयास हो सकते हैं वो करते हैं। तो अगर हम कुछ हाइलाइट्स देखें कि लड़कियां क्या क्या एक्टिविटीज करती हैं हमारे परिसर में, तो घुड़सवारी से लेके हवाई जहाज उड़ाना है। और मैं आपको बता दूं कि ये जो 5 घोड़े चला रही हैं, ये हमारे वनस्थली विद्यापीठ की वर्तमान कुलपति महोदया ही हैं।
ओके। ईना मैम।
और ये तब से शुरू, ये उन्हीं की तस्वीर है जब वो वनस्थली विद्यापीठ की एक छात्रा थी,
जी।
और तब से नहीं आज तक भी ये परंपरा कायम है।
हम्म।
चाहे जूडो कराटे हो, जिम्नास्टिक हो, रोप मलखम हो, जो हमारा भारतीय खेल माना गया, रोप मलखम है, पोल मलखम है।
हम्म।
ये छोटी छोटी स्कूल की, कॉलेज की लड़कियां भी इसमें बहुत ही निपुणता से भाग लेती हैं। बास्केटबॉल, क्रिकेट, योग, ओलंपिक साइज टेबल टेनिस, बैडमिंटन, आर्चरी, मार्च पास्ट। उसके साथ साथ प्रैक्टिकल एजुकेशन में हमारा फाइन आर्ट्स डिजाइन डिपार्टमेंट, जो जब से हम शुरू में तब से ही बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। देखेंगे अलग अलग डिग्निटरीज अलग अलग समय पे आके वनस्थली को देखते भी रहे, और हर समय अब हमने सभी पंचमुखी शिक्षा के आयामों में एक बड़ा योगदान दिया है। तो आप देख सकते हैं हमारे टेक्सटाइल डिपार्टमेंट, जो कि अपने आप में बहुत अनूठा है, शायद देश का एकमात्र ऐसा डिपार्टमेंट होगा जिसने इतने समय तक इस कला को संजोए रखा है। उसके बाद हमारा कला विभाग जो है, कला मंदिर, ये अपने आप में बड़ा अनूठा विभाग है, जहाँ पे देश के, दुनिया के बड़े बड़े आर्टिस्ट की फ्रेस्को आर्ट, जिसके हम जनक भी माने जाते हैं, जो हमने शुरुआत की है, उसकी कुछ झलकियां आपको देखने को मिलेंगी। हमारा राजस्थानी डांस ना सिर्फ राजस्थान में, ना सिर्फ भारत में, बट दुनिया में अपना नाम कमा चुका है। पिछले करीब 15-20 सालों से ये एक अनडिस्प्यूटेड चैंपियन की तरह जाता रहा है। अभी हाल ही में हमारे राजस्थानी डांस ने इजिप्ट में जाकर अपनी प्रस्तुति दी थी, और अभी इंटरनेशनल यूथ फेस्टिवल चैंपियनशिप में भी ये चैंपियन बन के वापस लौटते हैं। और सिर्फ राजस्थानी नहीं, मणिपुरी डांस भी, कथक डांस भी, अभी तो भरतनाट्यम भी हमारे यहाँ शुरू हो गया है। तो लगातार प्रयास रहा है कि हम भारत के अलग अलग क्षेत्रों के जो संस्कृति, जो उनके कल्चर है, उनको अपने यहाँ समाहित कर सके। और सिर्फ ट्रेडिशन ही नहीं, टेक्नोलॉजी के मामले में भी वी हैव द मोस्ट एडवांस स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इक्विपमेंट, चाहे वो मटेरियल साइंस का हो, चाहे बायो इन्फॉर्मेटिक्स का हो, चाहे टेक्नोलॉजी का हो। सभी में जो सबसे एडवांस मशीनरी हो सकती है, वो हमारे हर विभाग में अलग अलग जगह अवेलेबल है। आप रोबोटिक्स की बात करें तो देश दुनिया के सबसे एडवांस रोबोट्स हमारे पास हैं। लड़कियां इसमें इंडस्ट्री लेवल की ट्रेनिंग करती हैं, और उसका नतीजा ये होता है कि आज बहुत सारी ऐसी कंपनियां हैं जो अपनी ग्रोथ, अपने एक्सपांशन प्लान को भी वनस्थली की छात्राओं की संख्या के साथ ही प्लान करती हैं, और वनस्थली की छात्राओं पर भी पूरी तरह निर्भर है। Now comes a very important part, that with education, preservation, promotion, enrichment of the cultural heritage is the most essential part, ensuring that the youth of today is very well connected with our country, our nation. So we don't just celebrate all the festivals together, पर उसके साथ साथ हर त्योहार की जानकारी भी विस्तार से बच्चों के साथ दी जाती है, और बहुत ही एक इनफॉर्मल सेटिंग में बच्चों को बताया जाता है कि हर त्योहार का महत्व क्या है, हर त्योहार की जरूरत क्या है, और हम उससे क्या सीख सकते हैं। चाहे होली हो, चाहे लोहड़ी हो, तो लोहड़ी पे संगीत का कार्यक्रम होता है, तो आप देखेंगे कि हमारे अध्यापक गण भी हैं, हमारी छात्राएं भी हैं, वार्डन्स भी हैं, सभी साथी हैं, सब एक साथ मिलके गीत गाते हैं। चाहे नृत्य की बात आए तो हमारे होली होली का दहन के समय भी सब नृत्य होता है। लोहड़ी के समय में सारे वनस्ली एक जगह इकट्ठा होके लोहड़ी सेलिब्रेट करता है। नवरात्र के समय डांडिया की भी बात हो तो डांडिया भी हम सब साथ में करते हैं। गुरु नानक जयंती के दिन पूरा विद्यापीठ एक जगह आता है, गुरु नानक जयंती हम मनाते हैं। चाहे क्रिसमस हो, चाहे दुनिया भर के कल्चर्स को हमको रिकग्नाइज करना हो, उनको अप्रिशिएट करना हो, चाहे ईद हो, और सिर्फ यही नहीं, विद्यापीठ का कोई भी कार्यक्रम होता है तो सभी छात्रा एक साथ इस तरह एक ही जगह आके एक साथ सब जमीन पे बैठ के कार्यक्रम देखते हैं। मतलब छात्रा नहीं, हम सभी भी बच्चों के साथ ही बैठते हैं। और आप देख सकते हैं कि एक हमारी जो सबसे बड़ी समस्या हमेशा रही है, आने वाले समय में भी रहेगी, कि हमारी इतनी छात्राओं को एक जगह पे एकत्रित कर पाना ही अपने आप में बड़ी दुविधा का कारण होता है। तो छात्राएं फिर इसके लिए, हमारा जब आपा जी का जन्म दिवस होता है 24 नवंबर, तो एक बहुत भव्य मेले का आयोजन किया जाता है, जहाँ पूरे विद्यापीठ की सभी छात्राएं खाने की स्टॉल्स का आनंद लेती हैं, झूलों का खिलौने का आनंद लेती हैं। पूरे विद्यापीठ को बहुत ही खूबसूरती से दुल्हन की तरह सजाया जाता है, एक मेला लगाया जाता है जिसमें आप सबके चेहरे पे खुशी और जोश देख सकते हैं। और देखिए, इतना बड़ा एक मैदान है, वो भी पूरा विद्यापीठ जब भर जाए तो छोटा पड़ने लग जाता है हमको, तो ये एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है हमारे लिए। अब आप कुछ साजो सज्जा भी देखेंगे किस तरह से वनस्ली को खूबसूरती से सजाया जाता है। आप सब में से जो भी कभी वनस्ली नहीं आ पाए, मैं मेरा आपसे अनुरोध रहेगा कि आप वनस्ली जरूर आएं और हमारे परिसर को जरूर देखें। और 24 नवंबर के समय आए तो आपके लिए बहुत अच्छा रहेगा। और उसके साथ साथ एक सामूहिक भोज भी होता है, जहाँ सारे विद्यापीठ के कार्यकर्ता और सभी लोग एक जगह पे बैठ के खाना खाते हैं। तो हर चीज में हम सबको साथ लेकर एक कल्चर का एक समावेश भी साथ में रखते हैं। अब तीज त्योहार भी होते हैं, उनमें भी लड़कियों का जोश बहुत ही देखने लायक होता है। उसके साथ साथ हमारी दुर्गा पूजा भी है। दुर्गा पूजा की जो हमारी मूर्ति बनती है, वो हमारे एक बहुत ही काबिल कलाकार हैं। वो अपने हाथों से मूर्तियां बनाते हैं और बच्चियां ही उसमें सहयोग देती हैं, जो अपने हाथों से हमारी मूर्ति बनती, हमारी दुर्गा माँ की जो मूर्ति बनती है। सबके साथ सिर्फ यही नहीं, देश के दुनिया के अलग अलग प्रांतों के कल्चर भी, और उसके साथ साथ टेक्नोलॉजी भी लड़कियां साथ के साथ सीखती हैं। और देश प्रेम की जब बात आए और उसको पीछे छोड़ दें, ऐसा तो हो ही नहीं सकता है। तो इसके साथ साथ सारे राष्ट्रीय महत्व के जो त्योहार हैं वो भी सब बिल्कुल साथ में धूमधाम से मनाए जाते हैं। 15 अगस्त तो अभी 26 जनवरी आने वाली है। आज ही सुबह मैं हमारी परेड का अवलोकन करके आया था कि परेड में न सिर्फ हमारे कार्यकर्ता भाग लेते हैं, बट सभी छात्राएं अपने छात्रावास से एक तिरंगा लेके निकलती हैं और एक जोश भरे आजादी के नारों के साथ वो हमारे परेड ग्राउंड में पहुंचती हैं, जहां जिसके बाद मार्च पास्ट शुरू होता है। हमारा बैंड बहुत प्रसिद्ध है। दिल्ली के भी कई कार्यक्रम होते हैं जहाँ पे हमारे बैंड को लगातार आमंत्रित किया जाता रहा है। आप देख सकते हैं इतनी बड़ी संख्या में ना सिर्फ छात्राएं देखने आती हैं, बट छात्राएं परेड में भाग भी लेती हैं। एक और जो बड़ा हमको अलग बनाता है वो है कि हर विषय की जरूरत के अनुसार उसकी जो पेडागोजी है, उसको पढ़ाने का तरीका है, वो भी हमने बांटा हुआ है। जैसे जो जियोलॉजी की, अर्थ साइंस की लड़कियां हैं, वो वाकई में साइट पे जाके अपने जियोड सैंपल्स कलेक्ट करके लेके आती हैं। ग्राउंड पे जाके, जैसे अगर हमको पानी का सैंपल मेजर करना होता है, वाकई में किसी रिमोट जगह पे खुद जाके अपने हाथों से सैंपल लेके आती हैं। किसी प्लांट, किसी वनस्पति के बारे में सीखना है तो वो खुद जाके अपने हाथों से उनको देख के लेके आती हैं। जब वर्कशॉप्स की बात आती है तो एक्सपर्ट्स, हर डोमेन के एक्सपर्ट्स को हम बुला के उनके साथ वर्कशॉप कराते हैं। हमारा जो जर्नलिज्म डिपार्टमेंट है, हमारा रेडियो वनस्ली है, वो अलग अलग गांव में जाकर लगातार लोगों के और आसपास के गांव वालों के इंटरव्यूज लेता रहता है, उनकी समस्या को जानता रहता है। हमारा लॉ डिपार्टमेंट मूट कोर्ट एक्टिविटीज रेगुलरली करता रहता है। उसके साथ साथ फाइन आर्ट्स वाले बच्चे भी अलग अलग जगह जाके अपनी कलाओं का अवलोकन भी करते हैं, सीखते भी हैं, और अलग अलग जगह पर जाके उनके बारे में जानते सीखते भी हैं। सिर्फ यही नहीं, रिसर्च में भी वनस्ली ने बहुत तरक्की की है। टाइम्स हर एजुकेशन का क्राइटेरिया ये होता है कि आपके 1000 से ज्यादा पेपर होने चाहिए, तब आप उसमें इवन क्वालिफाई भी करते हैं। तो पिछले 20 साल में हमारे रिसर्च पब्लिकेशन में बहुत बेहतरीन तरक्की करी है। कि जब पहले नॉलेज भी थोड़ी कम थी, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ जैसे ही तरक्की शुरू हुई, तो आज के समय लगातार बहुत एग्रेसिव ग्रोथ हमारे नंबर्स में हुई है। उसके साथ साथ इंडेक्स पब्लिकेशंस भी बढ़े हैं, और रिसर्च अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी है, जो कि अपने आप में मैं कहूंगा कि एक चमत्कार से कम नहीं। क्योंकि जब हमारी शुरुआत हुई थी वनस्ली, तब तो वी स्टार्टेड ऑफ विद एब्सोल्यूट जीरो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर। और व्हेन आई से जीरो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, आई मीन कि वाकई में कुछ भी नहीं था। ये देखेंगे आप, पंडित हीरालाल शास्त्री जी, इनकी बात हो, उसमें रतन शास्त्री जी को आप देखेंगे नीचे बैठे हुए। वो सभी साथी, सभी छात्राएं जमीन पे ही बैठा करते थे, मिट्टी में, साधन में नहीं थे। ऐसे हालात में विद्यापीठ की शुरुआत हुई। एक समय था जब एक फोटो फ्रेम में पूरा विद्यापीठ आ जाता था। कि विद्यापीठ का जो ओरिजिन स्पॉट रहा है, जो हमारा जन्मस्थली रही, वो आज भी वैसी की वैसी ही है। और संसाधनों की कमी थी, लेकिन जोश, उत्साह और जो विचार था, उसके लिए लड़ने का जज्बा उस समय से रहा है। कि अब अपने हाथ से सूत कात के खादी बनाया जाता था, और खादी के कपड़े लोग पहनते थे। तो आप देखेंगे सूत कातने वाले और बुनकर भी साथ में है। और सिर्फ वही नहीं, कि तब आज तक भी हम जो भी कपड़ा पहनते हैं, वो एक किसान का, एक बुनकर का हाथ से बना हुआ खादी का ही कपड़ा पहनते हैं। क्योंकि उस समय खादी हमारे आजादी का एक बहुत बड़ा हथियार भारत का रहा है, और उसको आज तक हमने संजोए रखा है। तब भी देखिएगा आप, लड़कियां बंदूक भी चलाती थी, परेड करती थी, म्यूजिक, योग, साइकिलिंग, पोलो, जो कि एक सिर्फ पुरुष प्रधान ही नहीं, ये तो एक रजवाड़ों का, रॉयल फैमिली का गेम कहा जाता था। पोलो में भी महिलाएं बहुत आगे बढ़ बढ़ के भाग लेती थी, और उनको पोलो खेलना भी सिखाया जाता था। हॉर्स राइडिंग और फ्लाइंग भी तब से सिखाया जाता था। कि बड़ी रोचक कहानी है कि सन 1962 में नेहरू जी वनस्ली आए थे, तो उनके स्वागत के लिए एक हमारा एक तालाब था, जिसको भर के एक कच्चा रनवे बनाया गया था। चूंकि रनवे बन गया था, उसी की याद में उसके बाद कंटिन्यू करते हुए सन 1962 से वनस्ली में लगातार फ्लाइंग की ट्रेनिंग भी दी जाती है।
ओके।
और संगीत, कला, रंगमंच, नृत्य, ये तो वैसी गतिविधियां हैं जो लगातार वनस्थली विद्यापीठ में हमेशा से होती ही रही। आप देखेंगे अलग अलग तस्वीर में बहुत सारे विद्वत लोग हैं हमारे देश के जो वनस्थली विद्यापीठ में उस समय से आते रहे। जैसे इसमें आप देखेंगे डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद जी, इसमें पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी, सरदार पटेल जी हैं। और ऐसे समय में भी जब इतने बड़े विद्वत देश के जो अग्रणी लीडर रहे हमारे, वो लोग हैं, तो वहां से शुरुआत हमारी हुई। और आज हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में हमारे पास फैकल्टी ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स एंड कंप्यूटिंग, फैकल्टी ऑफ मैनेजमेंट स्टडीज, हर हर भवन में आप देखेंगे कि उनके नाम के आगे मंदिर लगा हुआ होगा, क्योंकि हर भवन को हम शिक्षा मंदिर मानते हैं। और हर जो हमारा छात्रावास है उनका नाम श्री शांता के नाम से शुरू होता है, और उसका जो नाम है छात्रावास का, वो घर का पर्यायवाची हम यूज करते हैं। श्री शांता कुटीर, श्री शांता आवास, श्री शांता निकाय। तो घर के जितने पर्यायवाची हो सकते हैं हम उनको साथ में उपयोग करने लगते हैं। तो जब कोई रिसोर्स नहीं थे तब भी जज्बा बहुत ऊंचा था, तो ये लगातार प्रयास रहा है कि हम इस जज्बे को ऊंचा ही रखें।
Wow.
So डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स, स्कूल ऑफ डिजाइन, स्कूल ऑफ फिजिकल साइंसेज, स्कूल ऑफ अर्थ साइंसेज, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ बायोटेक एंड बायोसाइंसेज, स्कूल ऑफ लीगल स्टडीज, स्कूल ऑफ कॉमर्स एंड बैंकिंग, incubation center. We are the only women-centric incubation center in our country, and we are one of the most successful incubators of our nation as well. Faculty Development Center, School of Architecture, School of Education, and the newly developed School of Artificial Intelligence, which is rapidly becoming the best of its kind in our nation, offering state-of-the-art infrastructure of the most advanced technology. And we have had center of excellence which are mostly first in Asia, and all of them are the first in India naturally as well. Our world-class laboratory infrastructure has all the top-end sophisticated equipment in every domain. तो जब बच्चे इतनी एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी पे सीखते हैं, उनके पास इतनी सारी गतिविधियां होती है दिन भर में करने को, उनके पास इतने सारे आयाम होते हैं ढूंढने को, खोजने को, तो निश्चित ही कि वो बहुत सारी नई चीजें साथ के साथ सीखती रहती हैं। इसके साथ साथ सिर्फ सीखती नहीं, ऑन्टरप्रेन्योरशिप भी ऐसी चीज है जिसमें लड़कियां बढ़ चढ़ के आगे भाग लेती नहीं है ना। हमारी जो नेशनल बॉडीज है वो भी हमको रैंकिंग देती रही है, पर खैर रैंकिंग तो एक अलग चीज है। बट our values and best practices include a very naturally maintained clean, green and serene campus where we have maintained it to be completely natural and pollution free. We have not done any landscaping. Whatever grew naturally, we have tried to maintain that aspect. Our entire water is recycled, and only the recycled water is used for gardening purposes. We've retained gardens in a much more natural way as well. Every year we have a plantation drive on Professor Aditya Shastri ji's birthday, where just before monsoon hits, we plant over 1,000 trees across our campus so that our campus keeps getting greener. भगवान कभी कभी मेहरबान हो जाता है हम पे, थोड़ी सी बारिश हम राजस्थान वालों पे भी कर देता है। उसके साथ साथ सिर्फ यही नहीं, हम हमारा ये भी प्रयास है कि बच्चे जो खाना खाते हैं
Okay.
वो खाना भी उनके लिए हेल्दी हो, तो हम 30% फ्रूट्स एंड वेजिटेबल्स को ऑर्गेनिकली उगाते हैं।
Mhm.
हमारा प्रयास 100% का है। धीरे धीरे हम उस तरह भी बढ़ रहे हैं कि अब ये एक नंबर है हमारा, रेगुलरली स्टेबल हुए जा रहा है। We have one of the finest IT infrastructures, as we were one of the first to introduce computer education in India back in 1983.
Mhm.
And we were the first university to provide computers with internet access in hostels. And even today, all our departments, all our buildings, and all our hostels are internet enabled. All our hostels are Wi-Fi enabled for all students, with over 5,000 computers across the university in various departments. तो अगर इतना सब कुछ सीखेंगे तो इट्स नेचुरल कि यार स्टूडेंट्स दे शाइन वेरेवर दे गो, बी इट इंटरनेशनल यूथ फेस्टिवल। और देखेंगे इसमें ये दो तलवारों के ऊपर, ये बहुत मुश्किल डांस होता है। तलवारों के ऊपर बैलेंस करना हो, चाहे जमीन पे लेट के नोट उठाना हो, सभी कलाओं में हमारी लड़कियां निपुण हो जाती हैं। चाहे गाना हो, ऑर्केस्ट्रा हो, अब जीतना तो स्वाभाविक है ही। ट्रॉफी कैबिनेट छोटा पड़ना कई बार एक समस्या उत्पन्न हो जाती है साथ के साथ।
Mhm.
लिटरेरी इवेंट्स में भी टीम जीत के आती रही है। अभी मॉस्को में वर्ल्ड यूथ फेस्टिवल गेम्स एंड एक्टिविटीज हुई थी। वहाँ भारत की तरफ से डेलीगेशन गया था, जिसमें सबसे बड़ा ग्रुप बनस्ली विद्यापीठ का था, 22 छात्राओं के साथ। और वो सिर्फ गई नहीं, बहुत अच्छी परफॉर्मेंस करके जीत के भी आई थी। एक ओशियन मैन वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप होती है जिसमें ओपन सी स्विमिंग कराई जाती है।
Mhm.
हमारी लड़कियां ना सिर्फ उसमें भाग लेती हैं, बट जाके जीत के भी आती हैं और देश का नाम रोशन करती है। हमारी एक छात्रा है काव्या सिंह, उन्होंने हमारे राजस्थान के तत्कालीन मुख्यमंत्री के सामने के समक्ष एक वार्तालाप किया था। और अभी कल ही वो एक कार्यक्रम में हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से मिलके आई हैं। और वो भी, जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं, शायद आने वाली होंगी तो पूरा वनस्ली उनके स्वागत के लिए इंतजार भी कर रहा है। और एक कुछ छोटी छोटी हमारी फर्स्ट एंड सेकेंड ईयर की छात्राएं हैं जो बड़े बड़े इवेंट में जाके जीत के आती रहती है। इक्वेस्ट्रियन कंपटीशन जो यूनिसेक्स कंपटीशन होता है, जहाँ मेल एंड फीमेल एक साथ compete करते हैं, वहां भी हमारी लड़कियां जाके अपना परचम गाड़ के आती हैं। और देखिए, ऐसे बड़ी छात्राएं नहीं, छोटी छोटी छात्राएं भी जीत के आती रहती हैं। चाहे हमारे जर्नलिज्म वाले बच्चे हों, वो भी अपना नाम रोशन करते रहते हैं। हमारी डिजाइन एंड आर्किटेक्चर की छात्राएं भी अपनी फिल्म मेकिंग एंड आर्किटेक्चर इवेंट्स के लिए जानी जाती रही हैं। हमारी शॉर्ट फिल्म को ब्राजीलियन फिल्म फेस्टिवल में बेस्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्री का अवार्ड भी मिला था। अब it is also about
Fine.
interesting women, to give them power, to give them sincerity, but to inculcate that fire in their belly कि हम आगे बढ़े, हम कुछ करें, हम बने, हम अपना नाम रोशन करें, देश में, अपना देश के विकास में, विकसित भारत की तरफ हम जैसे अग्रणी हैं, उसमें अपना योगदान दें। उसके लिए वी आर नॉट जस्ट प्रोड्यूसिंग ग्रेजुएट्स, वी आर नर्चरिंग लीडर्स, वी आर नर्चरिंग women leaders across all walks of life. And we have given many firsts to our nation, our glorious nation, and not just nation anymore, to the world. The first woman speaker of Lok Sabha, Meera Kumar ji, late Kamla Beniwal ji, Deputy CM of Rajasthan and former governor of 3 states, Srimati Sumitra Singh ji, First Lady Speaker of Rajasthan Vidhan Sabha, Srimati Bini Anga ji, Padma Shri awardee, Sagarika Ghoshal, CEO of Metro Cash and Carry, Dr. Shobha Singh, Vice President of Hockey India, Sunita Godara, international marathon runner and world record holder for maximum number of marathon wins. When she was a marathon runner, for most of her time, महिलाओं को अलाउड ही नहीं था मैराथन में भाग लेना। जैसे ही उनको अलाउ हुआ, सुनीता दीदी ने किसी को छोड़ा ही नहीं, सारे मेडल खुद के पास ही रख लिए। हमारी 2 क्रिकेटर हैं, एक इनमें सिक्किम की रणजी टीम में भी खेल रही है। आईपीएस पुलिस कमिश्नर, स्लमडॉग मिलियनेयर मूवी का नाम देखा सुना होगा आपने, फिल्म भी देखी होगी, तो उनकी उसकी एडिटर अनुराधा सिंह, वो हमारे वनस्ली से थी। और अभी करीब करीब 15 हमारी ऐसी छात्राएं हैं जिनका जुडिशरी में सिलेक्शन भी हो चुका है। उसके साथ साथ जो फर्स्ट ऑल वुमेन फ्लाइट हुई थी फ्रॉम दिल्ली टू सैन फ्रांसिस्को ऑन वुमेन्स डे, उनकी जो कैप्टन थी, कैप्टन वाज कैप्टन रम्या कीर्ति, शी वाज आल्सो अ फ्लाइंग स्टूडेंट फ्रॉम बनस्थली. And the feather in her cap, when when Air Force opened its doors for women candidate, Avni Chaturvedi was the first fighter pilot in India. She was also Banslite. And वो सिर्फ यही नहीं रुकी. Today she has made a name for herself, and now she is a squadron leader and a champion in her own rights. Now we have been having people from across the world, Germany, Spain, Italy, England, and they don't just come to India for a cultural exchange, they become a part of our Indian culture as well. We get regular interns from University of Oxford, and they have some amazing experience about Banasli as well. तो गांधी जी कहा करते थे कि बनसली तो मेरे दिल में बसती है. गांधी जी का फरवरी 1948 में भारत बनसली आने का प्लान बन भी गया था, पर शायद नियति कुछ और ही मंजूर था. नेहरू जी भी जब बनसली विद्यापीठ आए थे 62 में, तब उन्होंने कहा था कि अगर मैं लड़की होता तो मैं बनसली पढ़ने आता. और नेहरू जी 3 बार आए भी बनसली. इंदिरा जी भी नेहरू जी के साथ भी आई थी और अलग से भी आई. सर्वपल्ली राधाकृष्णन जी भी आए हैं, सरदार पटेल. इंदिरा जी जब आई थी, जब हम विश्वविद्यालय बन गए थे, उसके पश्चात हमारी पहली मुख्य अतिथि थी. मनमोहन सिंह जी, प्रतिभा पाटिल जी, कमला बेनीवाल जी, प्रणब मुखर्जी जी. जब प्रणब मुखर्जी जी आए थे तो उन्होंने स्टेज से ही एक बात कही थी कि यू हैव गॉन फास्टर देन आवर इंडियन जीडीपी. नारायण मूर्ति जी हैं, राहुल बजाज जी हैं, हमारे तत्कालीन उपराष्ट्रपति जी माननीय वेंकैया नायडू जी, ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी की फर्स्ट वुमन वाइस चांसलर मिस लुइस रिचर्डसन, कैलाश सत्यार्थी जी, हमारे तत्कालीन शिक्षा मंत्री रमेश पोखरियाल निशंक जी, हमारे तत्कालीन कुलपति को प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी से जेसी बोस अवार्ड भी मिला था. हमारा एक क्यूएस डेलीगेशन वनस्ली विद्यापीठ आया था, एंड उनकी जो लीडर थी, जो गिनी की एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर भी थी, उन्होंने कहा था कि अफ्रीका नीड्स यूनिवर्सिटीज लाइक बनस्थली. के बाद मोदी जी ने वनस्ली विद्यापीठ के बारे में क्या कहा था कि टॉक में तो मशहूर वनस्ली विद्यापीठ है. और उसके बाद वेंकैया नायडू जी बहुत इंप्रेस हुए थे वनस्ली विद्यापीठ से. उन्होंने कहा था कि वनस्ली विद्यापीठ की जो पंचमुखी शिक्षा है वो सिर्फ देश के लिए नहीं, पूरे पूरी दुनिया के लिए अनुसरणीय अनुकरणीय है. आप 2018 में आए थे तो अनिल अग्रवाल जी आए, हमारे ओम बिरला जी आए, जिन्होंने जो भी हाल ही में हमारे एनुअल फंक्शन में आए थे, उन्होंने कहा था कि जो हमारी नई शिक्षा नीति है उसकी जड़ें वनस्ली विद्यापीठ से निकलती है. तो आज वनस्ली विद्यापीठ की जो शिक्षा नीति है उसको देश मानने लगा है. हमारे उपराष्ट्रपति जी जगदीप धनखड़ जी भी, जिनका वनस्ली से बहुत ही अटूट नाता रहा है, कि हमारी माननीय उपराष्ट्रपति जी की जो धर्मपत्नी है माननीय सुदेश धनखड़ जी, वो भी वनस्ली की छात्रा रही है. उनको भी 2 वर्ष पूर्व अभी पीएचडी की उपाधि प्रदान की गई थी. तो बनसली इज एन इंस्टीट्यूट दैट has done or has been trying to do a lot for society, and we hold the potential to offer the world a new model of education. Despite introducing the concept of holistic education to our nation, now we still feel that there is a lot more to learn from Banasli for everyone. ना सिर्फ विश्वविद्यालयों के लिए, बट हर एक इंसान के लिए भी वनस्ली के लिए, वनस्ली के बारे में, वनस्ली से सीखने को बहुत कुछ है. तो वनस्ली लगातार प्रयासरत है कि देश की बेटियों को ना सिर्फ आगे बढ़ाए, पर उनको अलग अलग लीडरशिप रोल के लिए तैयार करता रहे. आगे बढ़ के वो देश में और दुनिया में हमारा और वनस्ली विद्यापीठ का नाम रोशन करे.
आई थिंक स्पेल बाउंड इंडीड एंड विभूतियों का वास्तव में ये विश्व है बनस्थली विद्यापीठ का। यह पूरा प्रकल्प 90 वर्ष की यह अनूठी यात्रा, और जिस अद्भुत रूप से मैं कहूँगा कि दिस इज वर्चुओसिटी इन एक्शन। हमने वर्चुओसिटी की बात कही, वर्चूज की बात कही। अगर मैं जस्ट क्विकली दीज 26 वर्चूज विच आर एंटेल्ड इन भगवद गीता, I think each one of them have something in action in the Panchmukhi Shiksha of Vanasthali, which is not just a vision or mission statement, it is in action. So virtues को जैसे कहा जाता है कि virtues are values in action, perhaps Vanasthali has lived it to the hilt, and we really hope and pray that Banasthali keeps on guiding India's education space। और आज 24 जनवरी का जो दिवस है, जो कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा दिवस भी है और भारतीय गर्ल चाइल्ड बालिका दिवस भी है, perhaps someday will come, perhaps long before बनस्थली completes its centenary, इसको बनस्थली दिवस के रूप में भी अगर हम कहें कि बालिकाओं और शिक्षा का जो अद्भुत संगम है, और बहुत अद्वितीय प्रकार से अंशुमन जी ने पूरा बनस्थली का एक व्रत, वी आर सो वेरी फॉर्चुनेट टू रिसीव दिस बेनेडिक्शन टुडे। पर इन वर्चूज को, वर्चूज इन एक्शन को वाइटैलिटी में ट्रांसफॉर्म करने के लिए जो एक पूरी यात्रा रही 90 वर्ष की, पंडित हीरालाल शास्त्री जी से लेकर प्रोफेसर आदित्य शास्त्री, प्रोफेसर ईना शास्त्री एंड अंशुमन शास्त्री जी नेक्स्ट, सो एंड सो फोर्थ, उसके लिए जिस वाइटैलिटी की आवश्यकता है, विजन, वैल्यूज, वर्चूज एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली वाइटैलिटी, इन सबको कैसे प्रभाव में लाया जाए। आई थिंक वी हैव Anshu Sharma ji as our next speaker. He's the co-founder at Skills Warts, and we would learn from him as to what kind of tools and habits which are needed for productivity, creativity, and efficacy. What we have seen all through, from Shobhit ji's vision, from Ashutosh's intertwined values, and the mesmerizing presentation of Dr. Anshuman Shastri, what Vanasthali has been created। तो इस तरह के लेजेंडरी इंस्टीट्यूशंस को, लेजेंडरी इनिशिएटिव्स को बनाने के लिए जो वाइटैलिटी आज चाहिए, ओवर टू अंशुमन, अंशु शर्मा जी टू गिव अस अ पेप टॉक कि कैसे उस वाइटैलिटी को हम लोग आज के इस कॉम्प्लेक्स ग्लोबलाइज्ड एरा में वी कैन ऑल एक्वायर एंड डिलीवर इन आवर ओन पर्सनल स्पेसेस। अंशु जी।
Thank you. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, loud and clear, please. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Raghav, for this opportunity to talk. And it's very enlightening. Honestly, I was listening since the start of the session today. It was very enlightening that the topics starting from Shobhit ji, then Ashutosh talking about values, and then Anshuman ji talking about the glorious history of Panasthali, so which I think the entire India was proud of. And I think it's a nice segue into the topic, as Raghav you just mentioned, is that when it comes to values, we talk about India, the dharma and purusharth and everything we've talked about earlier in the sessions. There is no shortage of history and richness in our Vedas, and we talk about Gita, Upanishads, and all of that. There's so much richness. We are proud of that history. There is so much of skill available, which Anshuman just talked about. We have some of the best institutions in the country, and we have people. So we have the workforce on ground. We are now the most populous country in the world with 140 crore plus. But one thing which worries me, and which is where this topic I think becomes very relevant and is very close to my heart, is that when it comes to GDP, we are saying we are number 5, and we are soon going to become maybe number 4, or the aspirations are to become in the top 3, which is fine. Everybody wants that. But when we look at another metric, which I would like to look at more, is GDP per capita. Because as a country, or as any institute or any organization, it's about per capita. So that shows efficiency, that shows productivity, that shows your creativity. And there, unfortunately, we are still 127 and 140 in terms of nominal, and in terms of real GDP per capita, $3,000, close to that. And that is a reflection of where we are in terms of productivity, efficiency, and creativity. That's what I wanted to talk about. And this demographic dividend that we call, that this advantage. So not only we are the largest population in terms of people, we are also the largest population in terms of young people. So when you talk about around 18 to 35, India is the largest, and we are not an aging economy, so to say. Like things like Japan, Germany, US, all the countries which are in the top three are more aging economies. Their average age is actually increasing. We are the youngest economy. So I think this is a time, and as we go on, probably the next 8, 10 years is the time when India has to make that move into top three if we have to. And we cannot do it unless we focus on productivity, efficiency, and creativity. So that's what I feel the importance of this topic. And thank you for choosing that topic to Rethink India and Raghav. And so I would like to present my view in 4 phases. I thought how I will do it. I said, okay, let me talk about my experiences, my life history, and what I have learned. That's what let me try. So I would present my understanding in 4 phases of my life. And the first is when I was a student, and we were together as a student with Raghav. And the second thing I wanted to talk about, the second phase of my life was when I started my first job. The third phase when I was doing my last job. And the fourth phase is now my current phase as an entrepreneur. I feel those are the four crystal different distinct phases where I learned and my understanding of productivity, efficiency, and creativity evolved. So with this, let me start with the first phase. So I studied at IIT Kharagpur, but before that, we all know, and Raghav knows that there was a preparation and JEE entrance, and somebody's earlier mentioned 12 lakh people entered. Now, in those days when I was preparing for JEE, in my time, I think it was 2.5, 3 lakh people used to appear for some 2,000 seats. So the ratio was similar. The productivity, the meaning of productivity in those days was दिन में कितना घंटा पढ़ते हो, how many hours in a day you study. And I remember a lot of advisors in those days used to tell me, unless you study 8 to 10 hours in a day, bhul jao, no chance of getting into IIT. That was the only thing. Number of hours can you sit through the day, 8 hours, 10 hours. Productivity, that was my understanding. It was core. We had no technology, we had no Google, we had no Chat GPT, nothing. Uh, there's no concept of even efficiency, honestly. When I was preparing, creativity though was out of the park only. So that was my initial understanding of productivity, that we used to say just ghiso, or spend 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. And if you see the very recent discussions, very controversial discussions happening around 90 hours per week, 70 hours per week. And I said, okay, we are back to 1990s when I was studying. So this is what was in those days. Then moving on to phase two, which was my first job. My first job was at Maruti, which is world. It's a Maruti Suzuki. We all know, world renowned for quality, for productivity. And that's when I remember one of the stories when I just joined as a graduate trainee, and chairman of Suzuki had come in to address all youngsters. So we asked one question to him, that, sir, why Japan Suzuki works 5 days a week, but in India Maruti plant works 6 days a week? So, so he laughed and he said, "Do you know they produce more in 5 days than we produce in 6 days?"
Mhm.
And he said that the day you produce the same amount that they do in 5 days, I will cut down to 5 days. And as far as I know, Maruti still works 6 days. So that was a second understanding of productivity. And the Japanese, we all know about the lean concepts. So that is when I learned the importance. A new thing came to my life, that okay, there is something on planning, because I was in production. So production planning, and then we talked about lean, eliminating waste. So this is where we said, okay, it's not just about number of hours you work. We all had an 8-hour shift, but in those 8 hours, what can you do more? Now, this is where efficiency came in. So from productivity, number of hours, we said, okay, resources are limited, number of people are limited, hours are limited. Can you produce more? So that's when efficiency came in. Can you eliminate waste? How can you best use your resources? That's when I moved from productivity to thinking about efficiency. And by doing this, still keeping the same quality or giving even better quality. right? Because it's very easy. Anybody says produce more, I can produce more and reduce the quality. But can you produce more in the same time, but even better? So that's when the new method of productivity and efficiency came in. Creativity, honestly, the third pillar was still far, far away from us. We are just, it's a very tightly run assembly line. There's no scope for creativity. You're supposed to do exact tasks to the T. Now, moving on to the third phase, which was, as I said, which was my last job where I worked with Accenture in strategy consulting for 7 years. Now, this was a very different setup. Now, I was in a services environment. There was a client. I was leading a team, and the work was infinite. There's no 8-hour shift now. So it's not that you start at 7, finish at 4, go home, relax. It's 24/7. This is now the 90 hours. And so typically 12 hours working days on an average, and Saturdays meeting, Sunday meeting. There's no end. The clients expect everything 24/7. Okay. Now, this is where I started to understand that, okay, it's not just about hard work, it's about smart work. So now a new angle came in terms of my understanding of productivity and efficiency is prioritization, delegation. So these are the two things I learned during this. And these are some skills I would urge our youngsters to also pick up and not wait for 15 years of work experience before picking up, is delegation. So managing a team. So nobody is expert. It's a complementary setup. You are good at something, you do that. Somebody else is good at something else, let them do that. So delegation, prioritization. And one of the things which I really used and till today I use, and I probably offer it as a tool for people, is something which is called an impact effort matrix. Many of you would have heard of it. It's like a 2x2 where you have impact on one axis, effort on one axis. So anything which takes the least amount of effort and gives the most amount of impact is probably your first quick win. So anything which gives you least effort, most impact, do that first. Anything which takes the most amount of effort but minimal impact, delay it, deprioritize it, because that will take a lot of time to do, hardly any impact. So it doesn't make sense. If you can completely eliminate it, eliminate it. And then you have those long-term things which take a lot of effort but make a big changes. This is what we are talking about education. When you're transforming education, it's a lot of effort, but the impact will be huge. Again, in this entire domain of consulting work, working with clients, with managing teams, though it was still outcome focused. And again, the focus on creativity was very limited, which was again, now I'm surprised at why creativity was limited, because the client brief was very clear. The expectations were very clear. We just had to deliver to the T on the expectations. Now, this is when I moved to the fourth phase of my story, which is where currently I am as an entrepreneur since last 4 years or so. Just for context, I run a company called Skillwise Global, where we do training consulting on exactly these skills. So our main agenda is to train people, to train our workforce on skills around productivity, efficiency, creativity, etc. Now, this is how I learned about this. So when you become an entrepreneur, and many of you here will know, many of us are entrepreneurs here who are talking about today. I think all of us who talk today are entrepreneurs. You kind of end up doing everything. And I think I remember that picture Anshumanji showed with the original founder with hardly any infrastructure. So everything, you kind of the doorman also, you are the security guard also, you are the salesman also, you are the marketing guy also, you are the delivery person. So everything. Now, this is where I believe creativity came in. How can I do more with less? I cannot improve productivity and efficiency. It's like one of my favorite saying is that however improvement you do in a candle would not have led to the invention of a bulb. So you cannot be efficient with producing candles and someday say, this is a bulb. There has to be creativity, which is your big jump from what you are doing. And that's, as an entrepreneur, is very important to be creative. Now, and collaboration. So these are the two things which I picked up in my stint as an entrepreneur. As I earlier said, you cannot do everything. You are not good at everything. Ask for help. And this is another thing which I want to urge our youngsters to take up, that ask for help. You are not perfect. You will need help. Don't take too much. Ask for help. There are experts. Another thing which I picked up, which I want to share as a tool with people, is something which is called a productivity rhythm. It's also called a circadian rhythm. So usually when we say productivity, we say, okay, how much output can you generate in so many hours, etc. But we are not machines. We are humans. We have a biological body. We have a brain, a lot of chemicals going on. Now there is a rhythm to our body, how we function. I'll give you an example of a rhythm. Some of us are night owls. Some of us are morning people, right? So some of us are more active in the morning, some of us are more active in the afternoon, some of us are more active in the night. So identify your own rhythm, your own productivity rhythm. So usually they divide into four categories: that when are you on fire, which is like you are full on fire. Okay, you're just crashing things, you're completing tasks, just left, right, and center. The second is when are you in a vibrant mode. Now, this is where you are more creative. So do more creative tasks in that period when you feel you are vibrant. And then there is a period where you are in cruise control, where not much of brain is required, but you are functioning. So all you are replying to emails, responding to messages is there. And then there is time when you are tired, you are low energy, you are hungry. Now keep easy tasks for that time. So this is one tool which brilliantly worked for me, is to identify how my rhythm goes. And this is individual to each individual, can be different. And then allocate your tasks depending on your rhythm. So when would you do work on creative aspects? When would you work on critical problem solving things? When would you work on easy, simple tasks like replying emails and maybe having discussions, etc.? And another thing is that today what we have is a benefit of tools, like we have digital tools, we have AI, we have Chat GPT today. So if you need to make presentations, use things like Canva, Prezi, etc. ChatGPT, Midjourney, Sora. There are tools which are again amazingly helpful in enhancing our productivity. We don't need to do everything ourselves. Just help with tools. Now, the last thing, and I will conclude with that, is all of these tools can be used, but they are of no use unless we form a habit. Habit formation is very important to drive productivity, efficiency, and creativity. And that's where I feel we are lagging in terms of as a country, as a workforce. And there are a few things which I have understood which probably helps in this habit formation of for productivity and creativity. One is start small. So if you are trying to form a new habit, or even if you are trying to let go a bad habit, it could be either ways. Start small. Don't say immediately from tomorrow onwards I'm quitting this, or from tomorrow onwards I'm doing 1 hour of workout in the gym. It will not happen. Right? So start small. Maybe just go for a walk for 5 minutes. And this is all derived from one of a very popular book called Atomic Habits. So I'd recommend people to read that. Then make it easy to start. The first step, as the popular saying, that the toughest step for a healthy life, the toughest step is from the bed to the floor. So if you get off the bed and just stand on the floor, most likely you will go out and for a walk or a run or something. So the most difficult step is that first step. So make that first step easy. Then reward yourself. Sometimes we don't reward ourselves for these good activities. So reward yourself with good activities. And the last, which is very important for today's youngsters, is design your environment for productivity. Now, when I say design your environment, is we have distractions all around us, especially the smartphone generation. We have smartphones, we have televisions, we have notifications, we have whatnot. So there are tools and there are methods to design your environment to remove possible distractions. So how I usually do it, and when I am taking certain workshops on these topics as part of Skillwise, we do that, is look back at your day and let's say look at yesterday, look at day before yesterday, and list down when were you distracted from your main work. And usually it will be, oh, there's somebody called my friend and took 1 hour of that discussion. And just suddenly I lost focus on what I was doing. Somebody will say, suddenly one notification came, some controversial message on LinkedIn or Twitter. I started replying, then somebody replied, I replied, and we got into a big fight. When it lost 2 hours, nobody knows. So we make them identify where they lost time. And then we say, okay, now can you stop these distractions? So can you stop notifications? Can you allocate a time? If your friend calls, say, I'll call you at so much, like follow that circadian rhythm I talked about. Keep a time for phone calls. Okay, I'll call you at 7, which is your tired rhythm time. So call them. So these are few things. I think it's a very interesting but big topic, but I think some of these things can help. One of the thing I've done, and I'll close with that, is in your phones there's a thing called grayscale.
Mhm.
So you can go to settings and see what happens is when you are on the phone, even if you're reading, a lot of people say, I read on my phone. Suddenly one red colored notification will come. Those colors attracts our attention. Now, what this grayscale does is it takes away color from your phones. Okay, your phone becomes black and white, like our black and white TVs. And I've been using it for last couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so. I think I started around New Year, and my screen time is significantly reduced from these distractions because it's now dead. Now Instagram doesn't appeal to me because all those nice videos in black and white grayscale are not as appealing. And it really helps. Shut down notifications, go to grayscale, and you'll see you'll become more productive. So I'll stop here. Raghav, if there are any questions, please.
Yes, yes. In fact, I would like to bring in Dr. Surbi for a moment as to what is this impact? Because back home, Dr. Surbi has yet another way ki on the television, you mute it, so you dampen the entire poisonous aspect of anything what is happening. But
Mhm.
what Anshu has just talked about it, Dr. Surbi, what is the science that if black and white you are color blind, how does it stop your fascination over there? Maybe you can add upon.
True. So this is a namaskar and really a very erudite discussion. And I think you have pointed out such important facets of productivity, which are fundamental to performance. I would say in any field, be it any sector or domain you are. So I would like to say here that color, रंग जिसे हम कहते हैं, तो शब्द रस गंध स्पर्श, when we say the LFST in so I am a hospital administrator also, I mean, have
Ah,
been in various corporate hospitals. So we say that customer delight, or patient satisfaction. So where there we say the LFST principle, where we say the look, feel, smell, and touch. So these are sensory, we can say, perceptions, and these sensory perceptions have a very, very important impact on the brain, on the mind. And this is where we say, so what Raghav is saying that regarding the volume. So if there is, say, suppose you are watching a movie and kids are watching, of course, family watching is the best, and there is a violent scene. So somebody shot a pistol, shot a bullet, and from a pistol, and there is a scene which is very, very like it's very shocking for the children, for anybody. So I just mute it, or
yeah,
sometimes just reduce the volume. So the
yeah,
psychological impact, next 48 hours, 72 hours, the child doesn't get scared. So what is
yeah,
to a child's mind is also to a developed mind, somewhere it has an impact. This is all psychology. And where we talk about colors, colors are so very important. So like I'm a Reiki practitioner too, and we study colors. We the human body is so beautifully, perfectly designed by the Almighty, that we have chakras in our body.
yeah,
Every chakra has a color to it. So this is something scientific, this is
yeah,
something very, very logical, and this is something very, very oral. So oral as in aura, aura. So color has a very, very important aspect to the mind. And I would say that netra jyoti, jo hame drishti, jo darshan, jo vision is a very important facet, and the optical center of the brain is right at the back. So what we say seeing is believing. So again, so much to say about ophthalmology, vision, mind, colors, and we have Ishihara cards to study color blindness, and we say that those who are it's a painful disorder where when people cannot distinguish between the primary colors, even be it red, yellow, green, the traffic lights colors, so then definitely color is important for emotional perception, emotional state of being, which we say affect, or AFFECT, or state of emotional well-being. So
Yeah.
this is, I think, what you pointed out is a very, very going to be a master strategy, especially for children,
Yeah.
students, professionals, be it anybody and everybody who's working on the phone. So bingo, this is
Look, it's
really.
perfect. Thank you. And I think it's a wonderful addition, Dr. Surbi. There's an entire field, Raghav, on this in neuroscience where they talk about colors, and there are reasons why, for example, school buses are yellow in color. And
Mhm.
as Dr. Surbi talked about hospitals, you have those green curtains,
Very
and you have white theaters or the operation theaters. The colors, there's always a lot of science behind it. So it's fascinating. Yeah.
I would really like to congratulate Anshu that such a intertwined topic, and he could just through the power of storytelling in such his poised mode, he could make that phenomenal impact on such a complex topic. Anshu, you have talked a lot about productivity, creativity, and efficacy in the individualized context, largely from your personal story.
Yeah.
You mentioned about your stint at Maruti, and you also said that when you still quit, Maruti still works for 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So, in the national context, see, our next speaker, Yogi Yogesh Kochar sir, would be just joining in, and he would be talking about how to handle the VUCA, the
Yeah.
volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which is so very much today. As you said, that any notification comes on your mobile, you enter into a brawl and you get kicked off from some WhatsApp groups, or you just pick up a lot of fight for that matter.
Yeah.
But global fights are happening. A president comes on a single day, he just has a flurry of executive orders, and the whole world gets rattled.
Yeah.
Lot of uncertainty just comes into play.
Yeah.
So, how at a institutional level? Because
Mm.
individual to institution, individuals are susceptible because, as we saw, that institutions have more elbow room or more absorbing capacity for that matter.
Mm.
How in the institutional context you feel where we as a country are lacking on the productivity, creativity, and efficacy frontier, like expanding or extrapolating your very examples
Yeah.
on a larger plane?
Yeah. So I think a very valid question, especially with the context of VUCA world, things are changing every day. And my point of view on this is it starts from school, it starts from colleges. Because, see, you mentioned organizations, but what is an organization? Organization is a collective of people, right? If you take the people away, there is nothing. The organization, it's just factories, or it's just buildings, chairs, tables. There's no soul to it. We bring the soul, the people bring the soul. Okay, when Anshumanji was just talking about the soul comes from the people, the students, and lovely pictures. So exciting. I was looking at all the pictures of all the girls with celebrate. It's all people, right? The buildings, they are right. The buildings have some sense, but it's still the people who make it home, the people who make it an organization, a company, a moving organization. As we say, it's a living organization. Now, how do we handle that is to focus on higher order thinking skills.
Mhm.
See, because there was a time, and you will know, Raghav, that there was a time we learned C in college, right? C language. And by the time I remember we exited college, C was gone. Now it's C++, and then Java, and then Python, and then R, and then no, I don't know. I'm out of software now. I don't know what is today. But the way technology is changing, by the time you learn something and you exit out of college, that thing is gone. Something new is there. So I love the quote which World Economic Forum you mentioned in your introduction has said, is that we are training, teaching people or students skills for jobs which we don't even know whether they will exist by the time they enter the job market. So the only thing which will keep them running is the thinking and
Mhm.
higher order thinking. That's where we talk about analytical skills, critical thinking, creativity. Because once you have those basic thinking skills, whatever be the situation, like whatever be the volatility of the situation in this VUCA world, you will be able to handle it. But if you're just focusing on rote learning, on learning some very lower order skills, once the technology has moved, you will be outdated. And if you see the organizations which are kind of moving, which are kind of able to sustain this movement, are organizations which have focused, which have been more nimble, more agile. Like agile is talked about a lot, which is again comes about creativity, about being more responsive, more nimble footed. So that's my opinion. It has to be, we have to focus on higher order thinking skills. We have to we have to teach our people, our students, youngsters, you have to train them on how to think critically, how to think creatively, analytically, because then the situation is agnostic. If I know how to approach a situation, you give me whatever situation, whether I'm on Mars or whether I'm on Earth, I'll be able to tackle it.
So, what kind of attitude? These are the skills part of it all, but then there is a perspective towards the situation. Like I can see you as cool as a cucumber, if I use that term. So, how do you develop that in the crisis itself? You might have all kind of skill sets with you. Thinking
Absolutely.
is one of the cerebral capacity, but what are the other areas you feel out of your vast experience that you can maintain? You don't get frozen.
Hmm.
What kind of deeper, I would say, emotional layer also needs to get developed apart from the thinking part of it all?
I think the mindset, and we talk about growth mindset. I'll give you one example. I had a student in one of my visiting stints I was doing at a business school, and this student was very smart. He was very good very hardworking, but his English was a big problem because he has come from a small town. So he was barely finishing a sentence properly. He broken English. And he came to me and he said, "Sir, whatever I'll do, I'll get good marks, etc., etc. But when I'll sit for interview, they'll not take me because I cannot speak good English." Then I said, "Are you ready to put in the hard work?" He said, "Yes." And then I gave him a roadmap that enroll yourself in an English speaking. I told him various things: read a newspaper, speak out loud, record yourself. And I said, "It'll take 2 years. But are you willing to put that in?" And he put that effort in, and at the end he was one of the highest paid in terms of placement. So growth mindset is one thing, which another entire big topic, where we say that you either win or you learn. There is no loss. So you either learn or you win. And this is where the pride in your work, what you work, you feel pride about it, you feel proud of what you're doing. That's where that 5 days, 6 days Suzuki versus India Maruti comes in, right? There we are all people, the workforce is same, but there they feel pride in their work, so they will give it all. But here sometimes we get into negativity and toxicity and a lot of those factors which take away the distractions. So I feel that if we develop that growth mindset, that will help us overcome all these challenges.
So the growth mindset, you are saying that it is linked to the pride, the organizational pride, the work you are doing in.
Yes.
That's where five Japanese days are equivalent to the 6 Indian days.
Yes.
So
So it's like, I'll give you an example. If I fail at something, I
Mhm,
can look at it, I'm no good. Okay, and
mhm,
go into depression and negativity. And can I pull the other person down to grow? Right?
okay,
There's
okay.
a very famous saying where a person draws two lines which are exactly the same, let's say line A and line B, and you ask one person, how can you make your line bigger?
Mhm,
And one person just extends the line with the pencil. He said, that's how I can make it bigger. Then
mhm.
they ask a second person with same A and B, how can you make your line bigger? He rubs off the other person's line and makes his line bigger. Okay, so those are the two broad mindset. The first one is growth mindset, that I'm not going to put you down. I'm going to work on my growth.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And the second one is more negative mindset, where you do politics, you get into put the other person down rather than working on yourself.
So just last mantra, sutra from you, that why we in India, like you still said that we have made a lot of mark so far, but collectively on the larger national collective plane, what is holding us back on having such a growth mindset? One or two facets out of your vast experience.
I think value-based education, that's lacking.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And it's a larger point. I would say that these things, Raghav, honestly, you cannot teach a 20-year-old
mm-hmm.
values or 18. It's very difficult. They have formed, their brain is fixed. So they have
Okay.
formed their values. It's very difficult to change. These things can happen only when there are kids who are growing up, and that thing of being growth mindset. And that's where education as a core, our budget, 2% of our budget is education, right? So which I feel is that's the biggest thing where we are
So
lacking.
this value-based education, what you're saying, it has to be in the formal context, or it has to be the entire continuum, because kids watch, learn a lot back at home also. So
Yes.
how do you see that?
Yes, it has to be continuum, but see what happens is sometimes your parents, for example, might be laborers.
Mm-hmm.
They themselves might be uneducated. They themselves have not received that value education, so they may not be able to teach you those values. So it has to be, I think, institutionalized, because otherwise, like in Japan, I've read about Japanese education system. They teach kids even to clean their own washrooms.
Okay,
So
okay.
that simple thing, you see Indian trains, right, or any
Mm-hmm.
public toilet, you see the state they are in, and that tells us about our mindset. That which is where I think that value based education comes in, right from the ground level, the teaching values of respect, self respect, pride in yourself, pride in your country, pride, mutual respecting other people, etc., etc. So those values of honesty, integrity, etc., all those have to be built in right from. And I think there's a Gurukul concept which is coming in. We had those value education in ancient, the Dronacharyas and the Gurukul of the world that we talk about. But
Mm-hmm.
somehow, because of this private education, international schools, a lot of
Okay.
commercialization of education, probably that we need to revisit.
So you see somewhere in future, like are these elite schools would be putting our students to at least clean their classrooms or, as you said, bathrooms. So what?
I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't think so. The way the fees are going, the parents will only question that I'm paying you 5 lakh rupees
Okay,
fees to
okay.
make my child clean. So I think there are schools, honestly, I know of, who have a very strong value-based education as a stream running right through. There are a lot of such schools which are there, and we just need, I think, more of those schools. And the government schools, I think that's where the key, that's where the needle will move, because large part of our population in terms of kids don't have access to private schools or international schools. It's more of government schools. So there, I think more changes are needed, which probably a higher allocation in budget
Mhm.
is the way to go.
Mhm. And
And
just one, because you have that ISB experience as well. I would like you to comment upon Shobit's experiment, especially at Rishi Hood, where
yeah.
he's trying to instill
Ah,
those foundational values in the first year of higher education. What is, because you said that at 20 years of age, 18 years of age, a kid is quite
yeah,
uh, uh, matured over there. So
yeah.
how would you rate that experiment?
No, so I actually probably I missed that. I wanted to talk about it, which I think it's a brilliant effort. While I
Mhm,
agree that it's earlier the better, right?
mhm.
But better safe than sorry. So it's better late than never, right?
Okay,
So
okay, okay,
uh,
okay.
if I think at least values when it comes to work, profession, and
Mm.
a lot of those things can be taught, like
Mhm.
collaboration, working as a team. There are a lot of values, integrity, honesty.
Lovely,
It's
lovely.
but yes,
Ah,
as I said, the earlier we start, the better. And probably Shobhiji would think about starting a primary school.
Lovely.
Right?
Thank you, Anshu, for such an enlightening talk at the
Pleasure.
first day of World Education Forum 2025. And today is the day of 5 V's. We started off with vision setting. We moved on to values by Ashutosh, and then virtues. We saw virtues in action at the 850-acre Vanasthali campus when Dr. Anshuman Shastri talked elaborately. And Anshu has really given us the nuts and bolts of vitality, productivity, efficiency, and efficacy, and through his own enigmatic personal life. And now, at a global level, when VUCA, when the collective is striving of all of us, is driving us crazy to really accomplish some of the highest dimensions in our personal, organizational, and national lives, how to instill VUCA handling capabilities to take on the future and the contemporary challenges with sthirta, stability, and operating word, what we have asked upon our valedictory speaker for World Education Forum 2025, Yogesh Yogi Kochar sir, the yogic imperative for India's educational ecosystem. Sir, so I invite Yogi sir to illumine us on this very, very important aspect. Like all of a sudden, a president comes into place, he signs a barrage of executive orders, and the whole world gets into a whirlpool. And amid such a scenario, how an individual, how an organization, they can all really cope up with such kind of a VUCA coming into place. This is just one example, and uh, over to sir.
Hey, thank you, Raghav. Raghav, I apologize. I got up a little late in the car, and I'm still in the car, is why my video is not on.
Sir,
So
sir,
forgive me for that. So you were talking about VUCA, right?
sir.
Now there's another term that's come in and it's consuming a lot of minds, which is BANI, which is
Mm-hmm,
brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible,
mm-hmm,
right? And there are researches that are being done on Bani minds. Okay. All I have to tell you is this: I'll have to take you back some 17 years ago, 18 years ago. I was in a research laboratory, and I'm saying this on a public forum. I was working on Microsoft. We were talking to psychologists from Yale, and we were saying, "Hey, how can you go? How can you advise us in terms of helping us grow our market share?" They said, "Chuck market share. Start speaking about mind share."
mm-hmm,
So we were very excited. I was about 40 back then. I'm about 58 now. We were very excited because we went ahead and created two products. One product was the short format videos that we all flip.
mm-hmm,
The second product, and there's a story. This is like a story. I'll give you this like a backdrop, and I'll tell you why I'm even speaking about this, though there are very few participants here, but that doesn't really matter. You must get to pick up the gist. Okay. So it said that, you know, create short videos. We created these 2 second, 3 second, 1 second video. The second thing that we created were the emojis, the emoticons. Why did we do this? Your rational side of the brain is the left brain. Your emotional side of the brain is the right brain. Okay. When you are going in and flipping these videos, the videos are actually enabling your neural switching at a
mm-hmm.
pace hitherto unseen. Okay. When your brain starts switching at that velocity or at that speed, you don't retain anything in your mind.
Okay.
So if I want to sell you something, you'll buy it on the spur, irrespective of whether you've even thought about it or you haven't even thought about it. Okay. So I wrote some letters to the highest seat in the government, and I said that some $600 billion of Indian money has been stolen and has been taken to America,
Mm-hmm,
and I'd like to be able to speak with the highest seat, right? I'm not referring to the person, not good here. But I've had some closed door meetings and I explained it to them how Facebook is about $1.5 trillion valuation uh, by way of its market cap in on NYSE or Nasdaq. It's about $1.5 trillion, right?
mm-hmm.
And it has 2.5 billion subscribers, which means every subscriber to Facebook is worth $600. And India's population is about a billion people use Facebook. So India's contribution to Facebook is about 600 billion. We are tottering on the edges of about 3.5, trying to chest beat and thump our chests and saying that, you know what, we've got about 4 trillion. I doubt it. And that's with due respects to everybody and anybody there. But I personally feel that here's $4 trillion created by 150, 140 billion, 1.4 billion people, 140 crore लोगों ने बनाया, was all a total of about 3.5, $4 trillion. There, here comes a $4 trillion, which is just one company, which is Nvidia, comprising of 35,000 people. You know what I'm getting to? Is in terms of the per capita productivity. Okay. So on the basis of that, both Professor Sitaram, who's a very eminent educationist himself, and he's the chairman of AICTE, he's from the Indian Institute of Science, and I have gone ahead and written a book, not one, but 2 volumes of a book on artificial intelligence and how it's going to just take our minds away. Right? And I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm the bad news bringer here. I don't need to bring it in like the bad news, but this needs a full-fledged session in terms of where is our mind, because the mind share of the country determines the market cap of the country. Okay. So on that short note, I needed to end it here. My battery is really low,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and I'm driving in the car. But it's been brilliant getting to know you. I still have, I think I see some 3-4% of my battery still left on the phone. Happy to speak to you and understand if there are any questions.
I think Sir has really concluded the proceedings of the World Education Forum 2025 on a very, very, I would say, inflection point. We started off with the foundations of learning, the conventional learning aspects of it, what Shiksha is all about, what Vidya is out there, what Kala, Kaushal, and Anubhuti. So, from those very foundations, we have touched upon the frontiers, and Sir has really presented a bigger challenge that the word of future is all about mind share and how to get the mind anchored into something substantive. That is where the entire education has to work towards. And this mind share part is truly the frontier because everyone is fighting for. Yeah,
I'm sorry to be interjecting because my
yeah,
battery really
yeah.
running low. You know what Americans did was that they offered us free grass to
Mhm,
mow on. So
mhm,
we Indians lagged onto that free grass to mow on, like the Facebooks and the Twitters and everything
mhm,
else, right?
mhm,
So whilst we lagged onto that free grass to mow on,
mhm.
all that they've done is milked us and they've created cheese out of this that they're selling back to us. Okay,
Truly,
that's
truly,
AI.
sir.
So grass can indeed be converted into cheese. What I'm trying to point out here,
Mhm,
grass can be converted into cheese,
mhm,
provided you get a cow in. So Americans were great at understanding that, and we were unsuspecting people.
mhm.
There's this great quote by who was this the African who got the Nobel Prize for this, and I'm forgetting his name, but it'll come
Nelson
back to me.
Mandela. Nelson Mandela.
No, not Nelson Mandela. Much before that, the
Okay.
American, the African guy that got the Nobel
Martin,
Prize.
Martin
Yeah,
Luther. Martin Luther.
no. That was American, right?
Okay, okay.
So this was somebody else. I'm just getting I'll just get to the name of it all. Anyway, so this is what he said. He said missionaries came to Africa and they said, "Hey, we got the Bible. Let's pray." So
Mm-hmm.
we shut our eyes and we started praying. Next thing they said was, "Open your eyes." We were the only guy that had the land back then. They had the Bible. When we opened our eyes, we realized we had the Bible. They had our lands. The
Mm-hmm.
land of today, the real estate of today is really the real mind of the
Mm-hmm.
people. Okay, that's what we got to understand. And if we understand that, then that's a great thing. If we don't understand that, it's unfortunate that we've lost our mind And Desmond Tutu was the guy, actually, as a matter of fact, that said that. He said when missionaries came to Africa, they said, "Hey, we've got the Bible, you got the land, let's pray." So we all shut our eyes and we start praying. But when we opened our eyes, we realized we had their Bible and they had our lands. So our
Okay.
land, our real estate is today owned by America, thanks to how unsuspecting we were and how God fearing we are. And we
Mhm.
said, yeah, we'll pray on the land and so on. But the time is right now and here. Unfortunately, none. And I don't mean to sound it like a dystopian future, but I mean to say this uh, with a sense of a complete responsibility, considering the fact that I've authored this book called The Road Ahead 2.0, which is a spoof on The Road Ahead, which was written by Bill Gates some 3 decades ago. And we're maintaining the fact that unless India latches on to this entire story of what data is all about in this country, we've lost the game. Okay.
I think we could not have ended at such a powerful note. The yogic imperative for India's educational ecosystem is to regain back our minds. And we have been doing these conversations for the last 5 days in the Manas Sarovar. As you can see that we try to posit the digital universe as the Manas Sarovar, which is overlooked by the Kailasha. So the civilizational ethos and nuggets and the vast amount of experiments we saw, the initiatives which are happening, perhaps have that power. There was a talk of the Adhyatmic Intelligence by T.N. Sudarshan ji, where he said that the entire advent of artificial intelligence has just encapsulated the entire Western paradigm into a machine space. And here it's an opportunity for us to get self aware from an Indic perspective, Indic knowledge system perspective.
Unfortunately, people will say all kinds of things,
Sir,
but we've lost it. What are we doing? We are doing 22, 24 chips, NM chips. Those chips have no relevance in today's time and age,
sir,
right?
sir, sir,
So
sir.
we can say what we feel, but
True.
it's great to encourage people, and I believe in that. But I believe in bringing the bad news first. The bad news is
Sir,
this: in the
sir.
next 18 months' time, our students will not have a job for themselves because
Mhm,
AI has today been, Chat GPT's IQ has recently been tested
mhm,
by Scientific American, and
mhm.
Scientific American say that Chat GPT's IQ is about 155.
Okay.
Einstein's was 150. And so you know where we're going, right? I needn't stress it. Hey, listen, my battery is really dying out, and
Sir, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I think this was the wake up call we needed as a valedictory address. We will resume our conversation with Yogesh Yogi Kochar, sir, on this newer node, and we conclude this phase of the conversations at the World Education Forum 2025, the second edition of it all. Knowing and realizing the challenges what confront us is perhaps so very important. Thank you everyone who all got tuned with us in these 5 days, all the luminaries out there, and we hope that these conversations would be striking some action points in whatever dimensions our speakers have suggested, and the journey goes on and on. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaskar.